because Susan Collins is over 50%. All the votes that are left there are going to come in from the far northeast and down east in Maine, and those are all going to be Susan Collins votes, and I think Susan Collins is going to continue being the Republican woman, female senator from Maine that we've had since 1949. And down in Georgia, where there are 2 Senate seats, I believe that David Perdue is going to hang on, not have a runoff. And so I think Mitch gets the corner seat, so all is not lost. But I'm curious, after you watched everything last night, what do you think? What do you think? I don't know. I'm going to go and give you the market update while we screen some calls, because birchgold.com, not birchgold.com, hughgold.com is sponsored by Birch Gold, and I have no idea what the market's going to think about this. I haven't looked yet, because my fear is that they are not going to like the idea of months and months and months of litigation and recounts and stress. So overseas, Japan was up 1.72% overnight. England was up 0.42%, and Germany was up 0.34%. But believe it or not, gold went down overnight, 1.11%. So it's at $1,889. It's a great time to buy gold. And, you know, I'm not going to tell you that we need lawyers, guns, and money. No, we need lawyers, gold, and money. We don't need any guns. We bought 7 million guns in the last 3 months. It's going to be resolved civilly. Everything will be fine. Calm down. The lawyers will be involved. There are going to be recounts. I said on NBC last night, this is Florida times 5. That's my bottom line before I signed off. I have very little voice left. I did the 6-hour show with Ed Morrissey. He was terrific. Dwayne was here. He was here the whole show. Dwayne was here the whole show. So was Adam. So was Harley. So was Ben. It was amazing. Everybody showed up, and it was remarkable. So, Dwayne, how many governorships did we pick up?
Governorships.
Governorships. That's a new pronunciation.
I'm stalling while I figure this out.
Governorships. Is that like governorships? Are you doing?
No,
we're a little bit punch drunk.
No, I'm stalling is what I'm doing.
We are. We picked up 4 in the House. We didn't take the House majority, but Nancy's down to, I bet you, 15 at this point, maybe 16.
There were 10. There were 10 in play, and the Republicans picked up 8 of them.
So
New
how many of those
Hampshire,
are new?
I don't know. New Hampshire, Vermont, West Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, North Dakota, Montana, and Utah all have Republican governors.
Montana is a flip. That's a flip. That's good.
Greg Gianforte.
Gianforte. Greg is a good guy. He's the guy that I did a fundraiser for the school scholarship people. He's a really good guy. He got in trouble when he ran for House and he punched the reporter, but he apologized, and that's behind him. He's a good guy. Vermont's a good guy. Those are all incumbents, I believe. Utah's a new governor, but
Spencer Cox.
So we've got, the key thing here is House delegations, because there's actually a path. Generalissimo's kind of a crazy person. He's been figuring out every possible permutation, and there's one where we end up at 269 and 269.
But that kind of just went out the window because Nebraska 2 is now going the wrong way.
Oh, I told you that. Oh, you didn't tell me that. I thought Maine 1 was going to set that off.
Maine 2
is going for Trump.
Maine 1 is going the wrong way.
Yeah, but we were going to get 1 vote out of Maine, and so you didn't have Nebraska figured out. So
I thought we were going to have Nebraska 2, but apparently it's not.
So just do this math for me. If he wins Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina, Trump does he win?
If he wins Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, tell me about Michigan.
No, he doesn't win Michigan.
Then he won't get there. In that scenario, it will be 270, 268 Biden.
Nebraska,
you
screwed us.
If Nebraska 2 were held, we would have that 269 tie.
It's not. That was called pretty early. That in my 2 hours of goneness, that had already been called and fairly definitively by all the networks. So we've got the Senate. We picked up some House seats. We held our own in the states. Redistricting won't be a nightmare, which is good. I don't know how we did in the state legislative bodies count. I will look during the break. But I want to know what you think. Let's start with Detective Tom. Detective Tom in Oakland, what do you think, buddy?
Hi, good morning. So we weren't too busy tonight. My question is, this is from Mrs. Thomas. We are seeding that Georgia and North Carolina are going to go to the Trump column, correct?
Correct.
All right, and they're not going to be able to go ahead and wipe out the 650,000 in Pennsylvania, correct?
I don't think so. Correct.
That seems hard to overcome.
All right, so she told me that Wisconsin went from 130,000 plus, or down to a net minus of 8,500. Correct?
It's now it's a deficit of 13. It's closing again. It's a deficit of 13,000, largely because all of Milwaukee County has come in.
Okay. What about the rest of the counties in Wisconsin?
Good question. There's some out of Green Bay that's left, and some other rural areas.
But perhaps not enough to flip the 13,000 is what your supposition is?
Yep.
Probably.
Probably not.
Okay, so then my question to you, Hugh, is why we're up 300,000 in Michigan right now? Is James,
Actually, that just changed. It's now a net advantage of Donald Trump by 67,000. There was a large chunk that was going to come in from Detroit area, Wayne County, and that apparently just got dumped in.
What happened to John James with that dump? 1 second, Detective.
Senate race, Michigan. It's John James has an 73,000 vote lead.
Okay, he's outperforming the president. So go ahead, Tom. What's your question?
Okay, so then the question is that you are dour about Michigan because there are what percentage of the vote in Michigan has been accounted? What percentage?
We don't know because of the way the voting happened. We don't actually have a number of ballots outstanding.
Somewhere between 82.4% and 96.8%. Somewhere in that range, they're estimating has been turned in.
So we don't really know. They can sit in Detroit and find ballots, Tom.
Yeah, right. The sunken Spanish galleon, and oh look, there's some Gore.
Yeah, they're going to find a new island off the coast of Michigan and find some ballots. Actually, he might lose it outright. We got 1 minute, so right now I'm not an optimist about the president, but we won't know until tomorrow probably. So,
yeah, God save the Republic.
Well, we got the Senate.
That's not enough. That's not.
And we're going to have, well, look, we got to fight on. I'm going to give numbers of where to contribute lawyers, gold, and money. And we'll figure it out. We're going to fight on. But it is not, I'm not an optimist at this point, even though we are still ahead in Michigan. And I really do think we're going to win Pennsylvania. Arizona killed us. Arizona just killed us. Don't go anywhere, America. 1-800, thank you, Tom. 1-800-520-1234. We'll be right back.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
and I live with a bunch of liberal Democrats, and they were complaining about President Trump was dismantling President Obama's legacy.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like the fact that he had got rid of all of his regulations, his policies.
Right.
So if President Obama handed out all this to President Trump, how could he claim that President Trump inherited something that he really didn't have anything to do with?
Well, of course, Randy. Plus, how can he claim that that takes the credit for the economy when everything Donald Trump has done to improve the economy is criticized? Donald Trump lowered taxes. He lowered them too much. Rich people got too much of a break. Donald Trump lowered regulations. We need those regulations for Wall Street. So here you are taking credit for Donald Trump's economy while criticizing the policies that produce the economy. And Randy, the reason I said you were well named is because that's my dad's name, Randy. His name is Randolph. They called him Randy. Now, one more thing, Randy. You listen to the Larry Elder Show. I always try to use liberal sources to advance my own agenda because you can't attack your own liberal sources. Here is Tavis Smiley, anti-Trump Tavis Smiley, who criticized President Trump, admitting that under Obama, by virtually every major metric, blacks lost ground.
Over these last 10 years, most of that on his watch, black America has lost ground in the major economic indicator categories.
The so-called wealth gap between the average black household and white household widened. Poverty went up. And from a period of 2010 to 2013, believe it or not, black net worth fell almost 30%. Some legacy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mayor Giuliani, when they say they are investigating one man and his business associates, what does that mean? Who is in the net? And could it be the Democrat candidate for the highest office in the land, Joe Biden?
It has to be, because the money laundering was being done for his benefit. And if you listen to his son's description of it on the hard drive, which no one has disputed, he makes it clear that Pop gets half of that. Pop, according to a text message of January 3rd, 2019, for 30 years, he's been taking care of all the expenses of the family. That's Hunter. And Pop requires him to kick half of the money to him. So every one of these deals is for the benefit of Joe Biden.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. That's what the Senate Majority Fund needs. Go look it up. Senate Majority Fund. I think it's SenateMajorityFund.com. Send lawyers guns and money. They don't need guns. They need lawyers and money. We got to go defend ourselves in Georgia, make sure we hold on to the United States Senate and save the Republic. Look, the president is not out. He's been knocked to the canvas, and he's going to try and stagger up. But we did great. There was no blue wave. The president, as far as I saw it, has fought to a draw against every media outlet, big tech, all the Democrats, a massive money disadvantage, and COVID, and the attempt by everyone to blame him for everything, and the American people were not putting up with it. So he has every right to fight on. He has every right to contest every vote, but there are a lot of votes to be counted. I think what he ought to have said last night is, boy, why did they stop? He went a little bit ambiguous because it made it sound like he was declaring victory. He wasn't. He was just basically doing what Joe Biden did, implying a win. But there is no win. And I don't think the Supreme Court's going to be able to dodge this if it ends up in recount land in Michigan. The trouble with all the states that are close. Well, let me ask Dwayne, my own decision desk. If he wins Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania,
Yes.
Does he win the presidency?
He has to have Michigan too.
Okay, so he needs Michigan, Arizona, or Nevada.
He needs one or the other. He needs Michigan. Well, there are technically 4: Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona. One of those 4 he has to keep. With Michigan being his strongest possibility,
or Nebraska 1. So we're going to be looking real close.
Nebraska 2, I think.
Nebraska 2. We're going to be looking real close at all the vote totals,
right,
all of them, and finding out where we are. But in the United States Senate, we might be at 51 even before Kelly Loeffler's runoff in Atlanta. But we're going to have to defend some of those seats, so send money to Senate Majority Fund. Mitch will become suddenly the most important person in saving the Republic if Joe Biden pulls this off.
He's a firewall.
And he is the firewall. Mitch. Now, that's pretty doggone good firewall. Cocaine, asbestos firewall. We like that. So it's not cheating yet. I'll tell you when it gets to cheating. I'll be the first one to tell you when it's cheating. I was on the air in Florida.
We've seen cheating. We know what cheating is.
We know it. I wrote the book. If it's not close, they can't cheat. Unfortunately, the president, by the way, his travel was great. He went to Iowa and put that one away. He campaigned in Michigan where he had to go. The pollsters suck. Every single pollster said Wisconsin by 10 points. Every single one. Here it is. It's a 0.10%. They might even have an automatic recount in Wisconsin, as far as I can tell. They might have an automatic recount.
It's not automatic. If it's under a percent, either candidate
we'll
can
do
request
that.
one.
We'll do that. And meanwhile, there are still some counties in Wisconsin to come in, but it's 14,000 votes, so it's pretty hard to see that.
23,000 votes now.
It's gone up. So there's still some more to come in Wisconsin. I'm not banking on Wisconsin. I'm praying about Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, and the president is the president. Right, Dwayne?
Yes.
Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan,
right.
the president is the president.
I did come up with a 269 scenario.
Which is?
The 269 scenario is he loses North Carolina in overtime, holds on to Michigan, holds on to Pennsylvania, Georgia, but loses North Carolina. Then you've got a 269 tie.
Okay, that's not going to happen. We're not going to lose North Carolina and win Michigan. Not going to happen. We're going to win Michigan in the presidency and North Carolina in the presidency, or the president's going to get screwed. Ruth in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Ruth, what say you?
Hi, I was up all night and I watched this. I was very disappointed. And I'm from Pennsylvania, and I've thought from the beginning, because I've watched this unfold in Pennsylvania, the crazy voting design that they've unfolded, and it kept changing over time. And I've been here. Tens of thousands of ballots were misplaced. Every few days you'd hear about a big mishap of a batch of ballots, and we're talking large ballots, were mishandled and were even it was just crazy. And this last bit that they had to extend it beyond the election day, it looks very fishy to us.
Well, you're not going to have trouble in Pennsylvania. I think he's going to win Pennsylvania. I really do. 650,000, it's a big gap to overcome. The real problem is, where does he get the rest that he needs? Where does he get 2 more votes? That's the problem. Stay tuned, America. I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mayor Giuliani, when they say they are investigating one man and his business associates, what does that mean? Who is in the net? And could it be the Democrat candidate for the highest office in the land, Joe Biden?
It has to be, because the money laundering was being done for his benefit. And if you listen to his son's description of it on the hard drive, which no one has disputed, he makes it clear that Pop gets half of that. Pop, according to a text message of January 3rd, 2019, for 30 years, he's been taking care of all the expenses of the family. That's Hunter. And Pop requires him to kick half of the money to him. So every one of these deals is for the benefit of Joe Biden. And best evidence of that is, how did Joe, on the salary of a senator, acquire 5 houses and live like a multimillionaire while he was in the Senate? He didn't become rich after. He became rich while he was in the Senate. Well, he became rich because he was using his son, his brother, his sister-in-law, and his other brother as bagmen.
In that case, the question is very easy. You have dealt with organized crime. You have dealt with terrorism. You have put people behind bars because they are a threat to the national security and safety of all Americans.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I do believe, though, that President Donald Trump will comfortably win Florida. Every single Republican precinct and district that we are looking at in Florida and analyzing the data, it is looking increasingly good for the president. And so we are now not looking at a presidential race. We are not looking at a national race. We are looking at a small set of gubernatorial races to win the White House. That's what we are. President Donald Trump basically has to win state races in 2 or 3 states to become president of the United States for 4 more years. He has to win a governor's race, metaphorically in Arizona, in Pennsylvania, hold Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, and he wins. It's that simple. And one of the amazing things is now that as I'm wearing my Justice League shirt with Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, is how the left refused to attack Amy Coney Barrett at all whatsoever. And so just a piece of advice for the president, mention Amy Coney Barrett in every one of your rallies that you're doing on television. Say, isn't she great? Look at Amy Coney Barrett. She's on the Supreme Court. We got it done. In fact, you can start to see how the Democrats were attacking the process. I don't want to attack the nominee. And Amy Coney Barrett said it the best in Cut 10, where she discussed the difference of a senator and a justice. Play Cut 10.
It is the job of a senator to pursue her policy preferences. In fact, it would be a dereliction of duty for her to put policy goals aside. By contrast, it is the job of a judge to resist her policy preferences.
That's the difference between a constitutional judge and an activist judge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
Philadelphia, the fatal police shooting of 27-year-old Walter Wallace from City Journal in West Philadelphia has set off another round of mass looting, arson, and violence. Wallace, who had a long criminal history and evident mental problems, was confronted by 2 police officers who ordered him repeatedly to put down the knife that he was wielding. Wallace refused to drop the knife, charged the officers, and was shot multiple times. The shooting sparked looting and vandalism in and around West Philadelphia's 52nd Street corridor, where the 18th District Police District
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Remember, don't give up hope. This is not over. This is tight. I think he's going to win Pennsylvania. He just needs one more state besides Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, he being President Trump. The state most likely to be that is Michigan, in descending order. Michigan, followed by Wisconsin, followed by Nevada, followed by Arizona. But he needs one of those 4+ plus Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, and we're just not going to know for a couple of days. Dwayne, you have the 270 to win posted. 270 to win is where you go.
Yeah, 270 to win is up here. Here is the path. If you look at Nevada, Arizona staying blue, Wisconsin staying blue, Michigan holding, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia holding for the president. You have Donald Trump at 284.
But you can't lose any state. Well, you could lose North Carolina at that point.
If you lost North Carolina at that point, then you're into my 269. Welcome to 2020.
But he wins because we have the House. It's every state gets one vote in the House of Representatives.
Correct.
But they got to be flooding lawyers into Michigan and Pennsylvania just to guard the recount, and they've got to get lawyers everywhere because you might need to find one more elector somewhere else. Tell me about the Michigan difference, and how do we know how many votes are in?
The Michigan difference right now is at 66,000 for advantage to the president. It's 49.94% to 48.48 for Vice President Biden. It is saying they're estimating there's between 82.6 and 97% of the vote in. It's still undetermined
don't know where it is
because of contingencies. There may be still pockets of Lansing out there, but we think most of Wayne County is now in.
And we're looking at, there are a couple of, Marquette County isn't in, and that should be, actually Marquette County is in. The only thing that isn't in is Monroe County. And, I mean, it's not in at all, Monroe County. And that is the county that's bordering Toledo. I think we won that in the Ohio-Toledo War, or they won it in the Ohio-Toledo War. So we just don't know. Wayne County's not in. There'll be an automatic recount. The war for Michigan goes on. I can't believe I'm going to have to spend all this time talking about Michigan. But we've won 5 governorships, at least 4 seats in the House. Did Mike Garcia win re-election? I haven't checked that yet.
Mike Garcia is in 25, if I'm mistaken. Let me see if I can pull that up quickly.
The California results are always subject to change on the next morning. John Campbell used to say you had to be winning by 6 points when you went to bed in order to make sure you won in the morning when they brought in all their sacks of ballots in California. But the Republicans learned a few tricks this time. So
they're all carved up so different too. It's kind of, there we go. As of it's too early to tell. They're saying there's only maybe 5.5%, 6% counted. I mean, everything's mail-in the state these days, or a lot of it was. They've only counted 5 to 6% in, so there's hardly any votes counted. And Garcia is down by a couple of thousand votes. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So what the bottom line is, Republicans can't lose seats. They picked up at least 4. They picked up governorships. They've held the Senate, and it's within a whisper. It's a two-color country. It's a blue-red country, and we may have to live with Joe Biden. God save the Queen. Brad in North Carolina, what say you, Brad?
What do you interview?
How you doing? I'm good. I'm a little punchy, a little tired.
Hey, I'm over here in Western Carolina, way out on the west side of the state. The question I have for you is this: how can they call it for Cooper there when we're all I see is four signs out here? But how can they call it for Cooper by 200,000 votes on the same ballot as the presidential election, but yet we can't call the state yet?
Because the votes that are likely to come in are from Democratic districts. And therefore, they're going to favor Cooper and disfavor Trump. So they can extrapolate out that Cooper's going to win those votes and Trump's going to lose most of them. They just don't know how many.
Now, virtually all the votes are in, except for a handful of absentees. And Cooper right now holds a 240,000 vote lead over Dan Forrest. Forrest just underperformed where Trump was, and Cooper overperformed where Biden was.
But Tillis, I believe Tillis is a lock, is he not, Dwayne?
Tillis, some outlets have called it, some haven't. Tillis right now holds a 100,000 vote lead over Cal Cunningham, with essentially everything in except absentees. It's hard to think that absentees are going to be, 100% against Tom Tillis, but who knows? But I think he's got a big enough lead to survive whatever's out there.
I think North Carolina may have saved the republic with Tom Tillis. I really do. and Cal Cunningham's despicable behavior may have saved the Senate. We'll see. Let's go to Mike in Fairfax, Virginia. Good morning, Mike.
Oh, Hugh, what a night. I do have to say this. I think one of the first priorities of, frankly, any Republican governor when they get elected is to clean the ballots of the state that they get elected to. It should be priority number one, to clean, people who are no longer on the rolls, people who are dead, people who are not legally citizens, all that kind of stuff needs to be done from day one so that we don't go through this kind of thing again. And, you never know with Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, if they elect a Republican governor again, or Michigan, or even Wisconsin. With Michigan, I just wanted to know, the one thing I don't get, you're saying the 269 scenario. How does that work if it looks like the Democrats control the House? Because wouldn't they just vote for Biden if that were the case?
It's not how it works.
No, it's you get one vote per state. The state casts its vote based upon the congressional delegation. So if there are more, like California would vote for Biden, but Ohio would vote for Trump. And so it's just, if it's 269, the president will win. I want to give you an update, by the way, just came in. Republican, that's an old update. What's the number on John James right now? How many is he ahead by? 70,000?
John James, let me pull that window up, in Michigan is up by 73,000 votes with minimum 82%, maximum 96.5% in. So, I mean, it's getting into... They would have to run into heavy pockets where it's 3-1 against them to be able to.
If John James wins, the Senate is solid, and we've got a future presidential candidate. I think I told you that. So I think the Senate is solid anyway, because we're just going to flood Georgia with money, and it's going to be Kelly Loeffler, and you guys got to get used to it. I stayed out of the Doug Collins, Kelly Loeffler thing.
Collins graciously stepped aside and said, through full endorsement, I mean, it's everybody's going to line up true up behind Kelly Loeffler.
So the battle for Georgia is coming, and we're going to have to get every single. I got the highest rated talker in the morning, I believe, in Atlanta, and I'm on in Macon and Columbus. I'm going to be telling you a lot about Georgia coming up because we have to hold the Senate against the radical Democratic Party if Joe Biden wins. And some of you are mad at me for saying I'm giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm doing worst case and best case. Best case tomorrow, the president is the president. And he's pulled it off, and Michigan, God save me, Michigan saved the country. But if it didn't, it's going to be a 2-year struggle between Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden. Two old, wily people, one of whom is actually competent. Ron in Oregon. What do you say, Ron?
As a PCP from Polk County in my state, it shames me that they called in my state. We've been doing vote by mail for almost 20 years. And what frustrates me of the biggest thing, and I have a lot of people that have gotten anxiety because of this campaign. I feel like, in my opinion, that when they called it 803, that my state is everything down to the candidates of the Democrat Party that's been running in congressional districts and in the local areas. It insults me as a person who believes in integrity and trusts my people. We don't count our votes until 8 o'clock. They might go through and screen and everything else, but they don't start counting till about 8:05, 8:10.
But I'm not looking for an upset in Oregon, my friend. God bless you. I'm not.
But the thing is this: my question would be this to you: is if Wayne County has lost over 2 congressional seats in Detroit area, how is the vote doesn't stand when you got almost a 10% lead?
Well, here you go. It's not 10%. It is, the president's up by about 60,000 votes, I believe. And at 11 a.m., the Detroit News posted the update. About half the precincts of the Democratic stronghold of Wayne County remain to be counted. James Jones is ahead. And a lot of people in Michigan think, as they said in the Detroit News, he held a lead deep into the night. And it's a good lead. And a double-digit lead for most of the night, but it's now down to about 74,000. It is not over for James or for the president in Michigan. It's just, boy, oh boy, they better have lawyers at every single precinct counting. You never know why these counties come in this late. And in the old days, they held them back to cheat. And people just got to know that's what they used to do in the old days. I'm hoping that that's not going on today. Let me talk to William in New York. Hey, William.
Good morning, Hugh. I'm almost as tired as you are.
Huh.
In 2012, Philadelphia voted, so it said 100% for Obama. If Philly or other cities display obvious fraud such as that, could SCOTUS order a revoting under extremely close supervision?
No. SCOTUS will uphold the decision of the state, and the state could supervise and superintend. But the state, look, Philadelphia, if he doesn't win outright, you got a Democratic governor, a very competent Democratic Attorney General in Josh Shapiro, and a Democratic Supreme Court. President has to win there outright. And by the way, he didn't carry Philadelphia 100%. He carried some precincts in Philadelphia 100%, but he didn't carry Philadelphia 100%.
Okay, my bad.
All right, thanks, William. Ray in Blue Ridge, Georgia. Hey, Ray, you got at least one. I think Purdue won outright last night, at least as I'm looking at it right now.
Yes, sir, he did. Oh my God, that's a blessing there.
John Ossoff. Oh my gosh.
He's a disaster. He'll disappear again for a couple of years, like he always does. And we'll vote for Kelly Loeffler in January and in the runoff. I just don't believe. I believe they should have called Georgia already because of a pipe burst in at Fulton County, and there's not that many people in Fulton County that's going to make up that total there. So I just don't understand why they didn't already call my state.
You got a Democratic governor. That's why. Look, this is politics, and if you can get an edge, you take the edge.
Yeah. I agree.
Oh, Georgia, you got Brian Kemp. It must be. Do you have a Democratic Secretary of State?
Yeah, no, it's Raffensperger or something like that. No, it's all conservative down here.
Then I trust the result. If it's North Carolina that's got a Democratic governor. That's the one that worries me. And Michigan and Pennsylvania worry me because they got Democratic governors, and Pennsylvania is all Democrat. Now, Josh Shapiro's an honest guy, but we'll keep you posted, right? Time to take my relief factor. You know, I spent yesterday when I was waiting for this nightmare of a night, I walked 10 miles, and I don't feel it, except I took a 3-hour nap in the afternoon knowing I'd be on from 6 to midnight with Ed Morrissey and Dwayne and Adam and Ben and Harley. And then I stayed on with NBC until 2:45 in the morning. The president was done talking. Then I went to bed, got about an hour and a half of sleep. Come back to the studio and take my relief factor because I don't feel bad. I'm just a little punchy. 1-800-520-1234 if you want to get something past me. Today is the day to call. But the relieffactor.com is what keeps me moving. I'm not doing 10 miles today. I'm getting back home and going to bed and then waking up hoping to find that Donald Trump is the president. But that Nevada and Arizona, we should just drop relief factor there to the people in Nevada and Arizona because it's very tight in both places. It's an 8,000 vote race in Nevada.
It's 7,600.
So they got to go recount Nevada. Arizona's a little bit bigger than that. Arizona's 93,000. So stay tuned, America. Stay tuned.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Michael Moore is essentially saying the same thing. Yesterday, he was interviewed on a show called Rising on Hill TV. Here's what he said just yesterday.
Trump has tightened virtually every one of these swing states. Listen, don't believe these polls. The Trump vote is always being undercounted. Pollsters, when they actually call a real Trump voter, the Trump voter is very suspicious of the deep state calling them and asking them who they're voting for. Whatever they're saying, the Biden lead is, cut it in half right now in your head. Cut it in half, and now you're within the 4-point margin of error. That's how close this is. That's how desperately close this is.
That was yesterday. That's Michael Moore this time around. And you know, when I listen to that speech from 2016 about the despair that people have to encounter with a message of doom and negativity. Here was Biden yesterday in Tampa while Trump had a rally with the First Lady in front of thousands of people outside Raymond James Stadium. Biden had a handful of cars at the state fair, I guess the Tampa, I don't know, the state fairgrounds. He keeps talking about the dark winter. Biden it was so depressing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Since the presidency of Richard Nixon, Joe Biden has been a senator in the United States Senate. Since the presidency of Nixon, that is how long he has had power. We now can see clearly, we might have suspected it, that he has used that power, he's peddled influence, he's traded it for money. We now have evidence. It is so stunning that it's hard to take in, but even more stunning is that the media, and this grieves me deeply as an American, refuses to report on this. Jenna Ellis, what in the world are we to make of this?
This is so important because this presents a national security risk that Joe Biden has compromised his fidelity to an office of public trust, because that's what it is. When we elect people to participate in government, to have the powers of their office, that is a public trust. And the impeachment clause is designed to ensure that your fiduciary responsibility, your integrity, your allegiance is to your office, to your country, to have America first, as President Trump says, and to make sure that your allegiance is not compromised to a foreign government. And that
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Let me explain this to you and set the scene. At this hour, as we approach 7 a.m. in the East, there are not enough votes counted with enough certainty to call Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, or Georgia. We, meaning the president and Republicans and people like me, are confident of Georgia, North Carolina. I'm confident of Pennsylvania. I don't think they can get 650,000. The president is ahead by 646,000. Michigan, the president is only ahead by 64,000. If he wins those 4 states, he's president. Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. He wins. But Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada cannot be called for Biden because they're too close. In Wisconsin, the president is down 13. In Nevada, he's only down 7,600, but there aren't that many votes in Nevada. In Arizona, he's down 93,000. So that is the status as of this morning. And in the Senate, it looks like we got 51 in the bag. I keep going back to the Georgia. Did we get the 50% with Purdue? I forget.
Yeah. Well, as of now, again, everything's on pause while the vote counters are taking a nap. He's at 50.3, something like that, 50.4.
Yeah, and we have picked up Alabama and Maine is secure.
50.84. He's at 50.84%.
So that's no runoff there. So we should be fine in the United States Senate, and we're going to win that runoff with Kelly Loeffler. We are. And so Mitch McConnell's the firewall, but we're not giving up. Let's go to Medford, Oregon, and talk to Linda. Good morning, Linda.
Yes, good morning. I was looking on Yahoo at where President Trump is leading. He's leading in, he only needs to win Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, and he'd get it. Actually, he'd be 280.
He needs all 40.
Yeah,
he needs all 4 of those.
He'd be at 284 if that happened, yes.
Yes, yes, because it shows which state, what the delegates are for, the electoral votes for each state.
But that is a reach because of Michigan. That's the weak link there. If he loses Michigan, he's not at... Michigan's 15, I believe, and then he goes down to 269, and Joe Biden goes to 271. It's going to be one of the closest elections in American history.
Yes, Oh, so we'll see what happens in a few hours.
Thank you very much. Jeff in Orange County, California. I don't think we can claim any victories there for Michelle Steele or Kim Young yet, can we?
No, it's really close, Professor Hewitt. In 2018, we saw a blue wave hit Orange County, which was unprecedented, and I'm curious, where do you think it's going to go from here?
Well, this is a changing demographic. You got to get good candidates like Michelle Steele and Kim Young to make it possible. It could change back, but look, California's going to hit the wall pretty soon. I think if Joe Biden is the president, a lot of these seats, the House is very much in play in 2 years, and Mitch McConnell can hold the line for 2 years. Thank you, Jeff. John in Grand Junction, Colorado. Sorry about Cory Gardner, John. The numbers just weren't there.
Yes, sir. Hey, I would like for you guys to check into KKCO News at 7:45 this evening, claiming that Joe Biden has taken Colorado while there were still people standing in line to vote.
Well, I will look for that, but again, that probably happened in a few places because of the calls. That is not supposed to happen, but if the official time ticked by and a few precincts were open, it's not close in Colorado. Donald Trump won by 300 and almost 400,000 votes.
No, Biden did. Biden won by Biden. The margin right now in Colorado is 410,000 votes.
Yeah, so that wouldn't have mattered, John, but thank you. Richie in Florida, you guys are the champions of the night. Florida just overperformed and blew out the idea that there was a red wave. Good on them. Picked up a couple of congressional districts in Florida. Good for you guys.
Yeah, real good. I've been analyzing the counties in each of the states, and I'll tell you what, I think Wisconsin is the answer, and I'll tell you why. I've looked at Pennsylvania. About half of the votes are in from Philadelphia. Maybe another 200,000 votes for Biden there, but it's not enough to make up the difference, and there's still a few other counties that are red counties. So that's definitely, unless there's any kind of games with ballots without matching, signatures.
I'm feeling good about Pennsylvania. Tell me your theory quickly on Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, here's the deal. I've looked at that. All the counties that went for Biden, they're 100% complete, what they indicate. The ones that aren't are for Trump, and it's 51% only for Green Bay. There's a 14,000 vote lead on 51% of the votes from that county. So that would make up the difference. There's also a few other counties with maybe 95% of the vote. They're red counties as well.
There's some pockets of rural, and that's I think why they haven't called it yet. Now, Green Bay historically votes Democrat, but the president held a massive rally in Green Bay.
He brought the shipbuilding up there to Martin Marietta,
yes.
And we got Mike Gallagher on the ground. So I'm not, Wisconsin is probably the best shot of all these. Nevada 7,600. I just don't know Nevada well enough. When we come back, we'll bring you updated numbers from all these places. I think they're still counting in Nevada, are they not? Or they go home?
No, they're still counting. They're slow, but they are still updating in Nevada.
So there are going to be recounts for days. Everybody put your patient pants on because it's going to take a long, long time to thread through this. It ain't over. It looks not good for the president. Doesn't look good for the president at all. Looks very good for the Senate. Nancy Pelosi's still the speaker. That's their problem. But if Mitch McConnell has a firewall, it could have been a lot worse, although we are still hoping for the best, and I'll keep you posted when we come back to hour number 2 of today's Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Since the presidency of Richard Nixon, Joe Biden has been a senator in the United States Senate. Since the presidency of Nixon, that is how long he has had power. We now can see clearly, we might have suspected it, that he has used that power, he's peddled influence, he's traded it for money. We now have evidence. It is so stunning that it's hard to take in, but even more stunning is that the media, and this grieves me deeply as an American, refuses to report on this. Jenna Ellis, what in the world are we to make of this?
This is so important because this presents a national security risk that Joe Biden has compromised his fidelity to an office of public trust, because that's what it is. When we elect people to participate in government, to have the powers of their office, that is a public trust. And the impeachment clause is designed to ensure that your fiduciary responsibility, your integrity, your allegiance is to your office, to your country, to have America first, as President Trump says, and to make sure that your allegiance is not compromised to a foreign government. And that is exactly what the evidence is showing that Joe Biden has done throughout his time as the Vice President of the United States.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
For all intents and purposes, this is no longer John Roberts' court. John Roberts is a metropolitan liberal. He is at best, Rockefeller Republican who goes the way the ruling class tells him to go. Appointed by George W. Bush. He believes that church is not essential. He believes that deadlines for ballots in Pennsylvania are irrelevant. John Roberts upheld Obamacare. John Roberts, who was supposed to be a constitutional conservative, has really turned his back on all of us that love the Constitution and love our country. And then a billionaire from New York came down the escalator and exposed the fraud that is the American political system. That both parties for 40 years have been saying one thing and doing another, declaring endless misadventures overseas, keeping us in these perpetual conflicts, negotiating bad trade deals, keeping our borders wide open. And President Trump, albeit an unconventional candidate, an unconventional vessel, came onto the scene and he made a list. He made a list of Supreme Court nominees that he would put on the Supreme Court if vacancies would arise. And of course, Scalia's seat was open by the time he became president, filled it with Gorsuch. Anthony Kennedy stepped down in the summer of 2018, filled it with Kavanaugh. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg unexpectedly died about a month ago. And now that seat is filled with Amy Coney Barrett. 3 justices in one term. Only Ronald Reagan can compete with that. Poor Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter got 0 justices.
Keep up
Good
with
morning,
what's
Admiral.
trending. Subscribe on
Wayne,
YouTube today.
you're back. Well,
Trending now
so
on
part of me
America
feels like I
First
never
with
left.
Sebastian Burkett.
This is
As a GDP
3, 6,
figure,
9, 10.
nudged
This is
3%.
I'm going on my 11th hour of radio in the last 36 hours.
Like 33.1%. Wow.
How long have you been
Okay,
up?
let's just stop.
Just
Since
Since
a day and a half?
Since I've been up since about 8 yesterday morning, my time.
7% quarter on quarter.
Yeah, we'll call that an all-nighter.
Annualized.
I tried to go to sleep and I just couldn't because I was just watching.
Trusted information about our economy, about
I was looking at the I mean, you know where we're coming from. You know, we're conservative, so you know we were seeing Wisconsin and Michigan hold, and then all of a sudden I kept looking at waiting for this big dump to happen, and 100,000 votes in Wisconsin turned into a 17,000 vote deficit.
Dwayne, I'm getting a lot of static, probably because of proximity to the microphone.
How about now?
Much better.
Okay.
are still shut down.
So I was, so yeah, I'm not real hopeful about Wisconsin, but Michigan, I keep seeing that Michigan is supposed to be this big, this big dump coming in, and it happened. It went from a 200,000 vote lead for Trump, and it's been now holding at about 60 to 65,000 as it's working its way up. I don't know how much is left. I think most of Wayne County is in. There may be little pockets of Lansing, which it's going to chip away a little bit more, but it's getting to the point where I don't know how much is left. If Trump holds, I mean, I don't think Pennsylvania, there's enough. The lead's big enough. I don't think that Biden can take Pennsylvania. I'm hoping that Georgia and North Carolina stay there.
Trending
but if
now
all that
on
happens,
the Larry Elder Show.
Michigan's really going to be it. If Trump holds Michigan, he wins. If he loses Michigan, he loses.
25 unarmed black men are killed every year. That's two per month.
At this minute, I would.
Again, this wasn't unarmed, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
Than Trump. But
so we can do this until the cows come
every
home.
Half hour.
Meanwhile, more unarmed whites are killed every year than unarmed blacks. Name one.
Dwayne, I lost you.
What's the chant they say in the streets? Say her name, say her name. Okay, say their name. Say their name. Name one. 50 million police civilian interactions every single year. 11 million arrests. 60,000 officers assaulted. 60 killed. Which means over twice as many police officers are killed every year than are unarmed blacks. Say their names. Out of the 1,000, 500 of them are white. So the police are killing twice as many whites as blacks. And when you look at the homicide rate of young black men, 8 times the rate of young white men, it clearly shows you how the police are restraining themselves, because those numbers would suggest that the police would be killing more blacks. If a young black is 8 times more likely to be a homicide victim compared to a young white, and the police are, quote, only, close quote, 2.5 times more likely to kill a black person than a white person, it shows you how the police are restraining themselves, which is consistent with the study that was done by the black Harvard economist I told you about named Roland Fryer. He found that the police were more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger against a black suspect than a white suspect, tracking the findings that have been done by professors at Washington State for decades. You're getting...
Dwayne, morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway at this hour. The president is ahead, but barely. Does not appear to look like he's going to carry Michigan, and therefore he wouldn't be the president-elect Joe Biden would be. The Republicans have held the Senate, losing 1 net seat, apparently. They picked up 4 and maybe a couple more in the House. They picked up 1 in the governors. We don't know about the state legislative chambers. All in all, a split decision for the country. I'm joined by Admiral James Stavridis. Now, I did not have the Admiral on for the last month because we're just doing politics, and he's a military guy, retired. He tries to stay out of the political fray. Good morning, Admiral. How are you?
Great to see you, Hugh. What a night in America.
It is. You're talking like you were doing a lot of talking last night, were you?
I did a fair amount of media. And by the way, I want to say for those who are listening on radio, look at what I'm wearing. I'm wearing a white shirt, a red tie, and a blue coat, red, white, and blue. Let's try and think that way as we watch this slow motion gunfight that's going to go for the next 2 to 3 days.
And if people are looking at me, I'm wearing the Ohio State sweater because we still beat Penn State. That's the good news. No matter how long this goes on, Ohio beat Penn State, but we're depending upon Michigan, which makes every Buckeye feel bad. Admiral, it does look like a split decision when you look at the country as a whole. It doesn't matter who's going to be president. We're going to have divided government. What's that mean to you?
Well, first of all, can I just say something off the top? Let's all take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath and let the process play out. Let's count the votes. Every vote is sacred that was postmarked before the election or punched into a polling place. Let's count them. Then we can evaluate, and then we have all kinds of institutions that can look at this. But please, let's all just take a deep breath. Let's stay out of the streets, out of arguments. None of that is going to help us. You know, Churchill said, that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the
others.
Exactly. And it's that kind of morning. And I think we ought to, in a kind of a backhanded way, we ought to celebrate the fact that we get to live in a democracy. We have hard-fought contests. We have institutions that'll adjudicate them, I believe, fairly. And all of that is good. I'll close on this, Hugh, because I think the thrust of your question is, what about the rest of the world? How do they see this? And let's be honest. They're doing high fives in the Kremlin. They're doing high fives in Beijing. They are thrilled to see this in North Korea, in Iran, in Caracas, in Havana, not because they support or not support Donald Trump. They're doing high fives because they perceive this division, this sort of violent confrontation here. We have to rise above that. Otherwise, they will miscalculate, and we could be in for a very bumpy international scene.
Well, you know, the one thing I'm confident about, if the president does not secure Michigan and Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania and win, I believe the transition will be seamless, and I believe it will go forward without a great deal of consternation. I don't think we'll have a repeat of what happened to him. I don't think he'll get blitzed by the intel officials. But I do know they're going to fight to the end. This is not, no one's going to say, hey, you won. You know, it's Joe Biden and Donald Trump are not going to concede nicely. They're going to go not gently into the night, either of them. In the course of that, I think we are greatly lucky that the Senate is not in doubt. And I don't think the Senate is in doubt, Admiral. So that means, because Nancy Pelosi is most definitely going to be Speaker again, or she might not be. It's going to be a Democratic House. She may have to step aside to a younger face. But that means divided government. What does divided government mean for the armed services?
Well, first of all, let's just hit pause for 1 second and recognize that even as we are frustrated and upset and we're tired because we were up all night, let's recognize that there are tens of thousands of young Americans, men and women, volunteers all, who are walking the dusty streets of Kandahar, who are flying high-performance jets over the Bering Strait, who are sailing destroyers under Chinese missiles in the South China Sea. Those are people who are tired, have real worries, and here's my point. They are thinking about what's in front of them. They're thinking about their mission. They're thinking about defending the country. And, you know, Hugh, there are very few things in life that I would absolutely bet my life on. But one of them is that your U.S. military will stay apolitical, will stay out of this contest, will think of this as background noise behind them somewhere. They'll stay focused on the mission. I hope our opponents realize that, and again, don't miscalculate this moment of some drama here in America for a moment of weakness by the United States of America.
You know, Admiral, I don't think that's going to happen because we've been here and done this before in 2000, and we've been here and done this in close elections before. It's marvelously intricate, and I don't know any you spent so much time abroad. Have you ever tried to explain the Electoral College to a colleague in Turkey or something like that? It must just be, prime ministerial parliamentary systems don't work this way. We have a very unusual system. And to explain to them how the suburbs of Detroit and the inner city of Detroit is going to decide the presidency is a little bit difficult to get across, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, the two hardest things to explain to non-U.S. citizens when you're living abroad, number one is what you just articulated, how you can win more votes and still not win the election. That just makes people's heads explode. And the other thing is our healthcare system, which, again, most other countries just don't get it on this kind of patchwork of healthcare that we've constructed. I think there's a point here, which is, as this 21st century unspools, I think it's worth looking at both of those things to think about, is this the right system for the United States? Let's park healthcare. But Electoral College versus popular vote, you know, at the end of the day, I'm for it. I think that it was...
Whew, that was the right answer, Admiral, or we're going to have it. We were going to have quite the conversation. Whoa, Nelly, the reason all these flyover states matter is because of the Electoral College,
correct.
Right?
And let's face it, it's grounded historically. Again, this is the genius of the founders, not to create a system by which there can be the tyranny of the majority. There has to be a way for the minority to express views through elected officials. That's called the Electoral College. I believe in it.
Now, Admiral, I got the toughest question for you. If you were a commander of NATO or Southern Command, which you've both done before, and you consistently received intelligence that was as bad as the polling was, because there is a real world effect when you say, when every poll says Wisconsin's a double-digit loss for the president and it's 13,000 votes right now, that's a failure of a profession. And that failure was repeated again and again, and that has real world consequences. What is your advice? I mean, if you were going to take over a network, if you were going to run, I just would fire them all, except the Trafalgar Group, which is the only, they would all, if they were intel officers giving you intel, what would you think of their reputation?
Well, here I'm tempted to quote Shakespeare about lawyers. You know, the famous line, the first thing we do will kill all the lawyers. I think the first thing that happens after this, we're going to kill all the pollsters. In seriousness, they tried, I think, very hard to adjust for what they learned in 2016, and they failed miserably. And I think that if they were intel officers, they would be fired, and we would simply blow up that J2, you know, what we call the intel structure in a military command, would call for a new commander, would call for new troops. It's quite extraordinary. And at this point, by the way, the only good news, Hugh, is that I think all of us as voters have learned now painfully over these two cycles that it is beyond an imperfect science, and it can lead you down very imperfect paths if you're a campaign strategist or you're a voter around the kitchen table. And so all of us ought to take away from this that polling is not just imperfect, it's clearly deeply flawed.
Deeply flawed. Last thing on defense budgets. One of the reasons I voted for Trump is I wanted judges. We've got a good bench, and I wanted a Republican Senate to control that. And so we're going to have a block in the Senate against crazy judges. I think Mitch will stand there all day and not confirm them. But defense spending is different. Chris Smith, who's ranking member of the House Defense Appropriations Committee, said it's not going to be terrible. With Mitch McConnell and Senator Inhofe on top of defense, it's not going to be terrible either. Will we get to some resolution on the NDA? Do you think we'll continue towards the Navy that has been laid out by Secretary Esper?
The Navy, yes. That has bipartisan support for all kinds of different good reasons. My sense is that in a Trump administration, defense might get a very slight plus up, and in a Biden administration, it'll be flat or a very slight decline. The key is shifting resources within that $700 billion budget to cybersecurity, to special forces, to intelligence, read our previous conversation, to space, and as you and I have talked about, to increase the number of ships, because our ships are going to be on the front lines in this great power competition that's going to unfold in front of our eyes.
Good to see you back, Admiral. Thank you for joining me early after an all-nighter. I appreciate it. Follow him on Twitter at StavridisJ. And thank you for joining me on. He looked good. He looked like he'd shaved. He's ahead of me. Don't go anywhere, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coast and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
For all intents and purposes, this is no longer John Roberts' court. John Roberts is a metropolitan liberal. He is at best, Rockefeller Republican who goes the way the ruling class tells him to go, appointed by George W. Bush. He believes that church is not essential. He believes that deadlines for ballots in Pennsylvania are irrelevant. John Roberts upheld Obamacare. John Roberts, who was supposed to be a constitutional conservative, has really turned his back on all of us that love the Constitution and love our country. And then a billionaire from New York came down the escalator and exposed the fraud that is the American political system. That both parties for 40 years have been saying one thing and doing another, declaring endless misadventures overseas, keeping us in these perpetual conflicts, negotiating bad trade deals, keeping our borders wide open. And President Trump, albeit an unconventional candidate, an unconventional vessel, came onto the scene and he made a list. He made a list of Supreme Court nominees that he would put on the Supreme Court if vacancies would arise. And of course, Scalia's seat was open by the time he became president, filled it with Gorsuch. Anthony Kennedy stepped down in the summer of 2018, filled it with Kavanaugh. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg unexpectedly died about a month ago. And now that seat is filled with Amy Coney Barrett. 3 justices in one term. Only Ronald Reagan can compete with that. Poor Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter got 0 justices.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
As a GDP growth figure nudged 3%. I can remember those days. It seems
like 33.1%. Wow.
Okay, let's just stop.
Growth.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway. Here's what I'm looking at, friends. Wisconsin, the president down 13,000 votes. Nevada, he's down 7,600. In Arizona, he's down 93,000. In Michigan, he's up 2,200. Don't hold on to Michigan. That's going to disappoint. Pennsylvania, he's up 630,000. North Carolina, he's up 77,000. Georgia, he's up 102,000. If Michigan goes to Biden and Trump holds on to Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, we're looking at recounts in those 3 states. Arizona, not likely to flip, but there's still a lot of vote out in Arizona. Nevada, 7,600. Wisconsin, 1,300. That's going to be where it comes down to, and Wisconsin is really going to be the burnt over ground. In the Senate, the Republicans will lose 1. They pick up 1 net governor. They lose 1 net senator. They pick up 4 in the House. This is a status quo with only the occupant of the White House changing. So it's going to be Mitch McConnell versus Joe Biden. That's what it looks like it's going to be. But we're going to have to win that Georgia runoff. And I mean win it solidly. Win it going away. Win it, win it, win it. Let me take some phone calls here. Mark in St. Louis. Good morning, Mark. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good.
I was driving in. I'm a military veteran.
have a master's in international relations. The thought that occurred to me in hearing the results from the holdup on the presidential and the Senate results is the Senate is the bulwark, and then you and one of your staff used the term firewall. Exactly right. We have a chance, whatever happens with the presidency. Thank God we retain the Senate. My concern is the Republicans are the party of genial losers.
Not Mitch McConnell, Mark.
Not Mitch McConnell. I agree, and that's what I hope they proceed with, and I hope that they don't, other members of the Senate and the House, back down and go back to their old ways. We've got to keep fighting. Retake the House in 2 years at the midterms. Traditionally, that's highly likely. And take back the presidency, if it comes to it, in 4 years.
That is exactly right. And Mitch McConnell on the wall. And that caucus, Susan Collins is back in at Maine. She's going to be chairman of appropriations. She loves the military. It means the tax hikes will not be dramatic. I mean, it just won't. And you've got Ted Cruz and a bunch of Republicans. He'll take the government. They're not going to change the filibuster either. That means they're going to have to get 12 Republicans before they can move anything through it. We might have epic shutdowns if Joe Biden wins, but I have not given up because I think this Wisconsin number at 13,000 is going to shrink given what's outlying. And I think we're going to look at every vote in Nevada. And I think, Doug Ducey kept saying it's not over yet. So this is not over. It's just don't hang your hat on Michigan. He's ahead there, but he's not going to hold on to that.
I understand.
All right. Thank you, friend. Bill in Michigan. Speaking of Michigan, Bill, you let us down, buddy.
Yeah, well, listen, hi, Hugh. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Listen, do you know about this company called Center for Tech and Civic Life, CL?
Nah, but, what's the point? Why do I have to know about it?
The point is they are formed fairly recently this year with probably billions of dollars. Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg contributed $250 million towards the center.
Okay, but Bill, you got to tell me quickly what the point is because I got to go to break.
The point is, in Michigan, the tactic of filing contends violates state law that calls for jurisdictions to use public, not private funds for such voter initiatives.
Okay. We will look and see about that. That's pretty obscure. Right now, we're just trying to get to the winner. And I also got to get to andrewandtodd.com. Overseas markets like this result. They think Joe Biden's going to be president, so there's going to be a rally today. And there isn't going to be a hosing down the money with Mitch McConnell on the wall. But nevertheless, we got to take a look at the 10-year Treasury this morning. It's up to 0.88%. The cost of buying a house is going to increase. So you need to go to andrewandtodd.com right now. andrewandtodd.com or call 888-888-1172, 888-888-1172, and find out what you need to do to get your house refinanced now. Because we're going to have some inflationary pressure if Joe Biden is the president. He's going to spend like there is no tomorrow. Nancy Pelosi is going to spend. Mitch is going to have to give ground here and there and hold ground here and there. It's going to be a big battle if Biden wins. If Trump wins, he wants to spend money too. That's why markets are pretty happy today. Overseas, we got Germany up 0.5%, England up 0.5%. Don't know what's going to happen on Wall Street. Of course, it's early in the morning after a long night, but right now is the time to buy a house. andrewandtodd.com. Coming right back, America. You can go over to andrewandtodd.com during the break, and then more of your phone calls. Stay tuned to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Don't forget to sign up for the Hugh-niverse. All of Hugh's broadcasts on demand, the after show, which in my opinion is worth the price all by itself, Dwayne FM, and all sorts of bonus content. www.hugh-niverse.com.
Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Before, if 25 unarmed black men are killed every year, that's 2 per month. Again, this wasn't unarmed, but I guess it doesn't really matter. So we can do this until the cows come home. Meanwhile, more unarmed whites are killed every year than unarmed blacks. Name one. What's the chant they say in the streets? Say her name, say her name. Okay, say their name. Say their name. Name one. 50 million police-civilian interactions every single year. 11 million arrests. 60,000 officers assaulted. 60 killed. Which means over twice as many police officers are killed every year than are unarmed blacks. Say their names. Out of the 1,000, 500 of them are white. So the police are killing twice as many whites as blacks. And when you look at the homicide rate of young black men, 8 times the rate of young white men, it clearly shows you how the police are restraining themselves, because those numbers would suggest that the police would be killing more blacks. If a young black is 8 times more likely to be a homicide victim compared to a young white, and the police are, quote, only, close quote, 2.5 times more likely to kill a black person than a white person, it shows you how the police are restraining themselves, which is consistent with the study that was done by the black Harvard economist I told you about named Roland Fryer. He found that the police were more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger against a black suspect than a white suspect, tracking the findings that have been done by professors at Washington State for decades. You're getting people killed. Officers pulling back. Bad guys know it. I'm Larry Elder.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once has an old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used a similar example. I like rock and roll. And the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, a guy by the name of Jimmy Page, he was a studio musician for years, and he just played one exact note for note what he was told to play, and he played all the time in that mode. And by the time he got into the rock and roll band Led Zeppelin, he had complete freedom to make that guitar sound how he wanted it to sound because he had the discipline.
Exactly. It's exactly the same as mine, just different form of music. That's exactly right. All right, my friend, we're going to do an hour together. I'm so crazy about the book. I just wanted to, in this very urgent time, take time out to tell people about it. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it.
You, my friend, to say the least, have earned it. Thank you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
The dirty tricks they're using in South Carolina, and what this has to say about Jamie Harrison, the Democrat candidate for Senate, who's challenging Lindsey Graham. This race has kind of turned into a national referendum, in a way, of Democrat dirty tricks versus the Republican Party. It's a little bit like the Ted Cruz, Beto O'Rourke battle was in 2018. Over at Red State, they write, not a day goes by where there isn't a fawning puff piece on how Harrison has managed to make a race
Welcome back, America. my summary, and I'm starting to get a clear head, though it'll fog up again. At this hour, it's an uphill battle for President Trump, which he and the GOP will fight fairly and hard. Trump has to win back Wisconsin with late arriving votes, or flip Nevada or Arizona on a recount. He's got to hold Georgia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, which I believe is doable. Senate Majority Leader is going to remain the Senate Majority Leader. Nancy Pelosi is going to remain the Speaker, although she might have a rebellion in her ranks. She lost 4 seats. They were expecting a blue wave. They did not get it. All of the pollsters should be fired. It leads to bad information decisions. It leads to disappointed Americans. It is absolutely reprehensible how bad they did. Wisconsin is a dead heat, and they added a 10-point race. What was the Real Clear Politics number for Wisconsin? I don't know.
It was at least 7 or 8.
It was at least 7 or 8. It's just unforgivable how bad they were. And Michigan, unforgivable. They were just terrible, except the Trafalgar Group. And that does affect behavior. Remember North Carolina, various polls had Joe Biden up 14, 16 points among registered voters. It did not change that much. The second debate did hurt him.
Oh, there was one poll that showed Wisconsin up 17 for Biden, and that was laughable.
It's just laughable. Now, I do believe that Pennsylvania was lost by Joe Biden with the transition from the oil industry comment. Western PA, the reason I'm not worried about Pennsylvania is, they got the Philly vote to come in, but they got Western PA votes to come in yet, and those are going to be just like Ashtabula, Trumbull, and Mahoning counties. All solid red votes along the spine of Pennsylvania where fracking matters. I don't think he's going to lose Pennsylvania, but it's not enough. It's not enough. He's got to win back. He's got to either win the last bit of vote in Wisconsin, and it could be a recount, automatic recount, and he's got to or flip Nevada, and the hardest one of all is flipping Arizona. Now, in the Senate, the Republicans are going to lose 1 net, looks to me. They're going to pick up 1 governorship in Montana. We're going to pick up at least 4 in the House. Wesley Hunt did not win. That is sad. He lost by 10,000 votes. The state legislative chambers, which matter in redistricting, did not flip at all. It's 59-39. Still 59-39. A dead heat election. America is just a 50-50 country right now. A constitutional 50-50 country. Biden will win the popular vote. Let me go to Cincinnati, Ohio, and Tim. Good morning, Tim.
Morning glory, Hugh.
Morning glory to you.
Well, I'm pretty sad about last night's results, but I'm trying to be patient, like the Admiral said. What happens now to EPA regulations? Were all those executive orders and everything gets rolled back the way it was before?
Well, remember, there were some EPA regulations that were repealed pursuant to the Congressional Regulatory Act, which cannot be restored. Those are forbidden to the agency. But yes, if Joe Biden takes over the EPA, they will be back regulating again. The country will grind to a halt, and he will have left-wing appointees, and will have to win it back. But, and I have to declare a conflict of interest. My son works at EPA, and they've done a heck of a job, but they'll all be gone. All the political appointees will be gone. I'm afraid we'll be back to appeasing China. But they can't. With the Senate, we have a firewall on money, at least. We can't defund the military the way that, and they're not going to change health care, and the Supreme Court is not going to be expanded, and D.C. is not going to be a state, and Puerto Rico is not going to be a state unless Puerto Rico wants to be a state. That's up to Puerto Rico, and that would be legit. D.C. is unconstitutionally prohibited. It's unconstitutional to make D.C. a state. So the radical agenda isn't there. We are back basically to Obama after 2014. That's what we're back to. If this holds up. Yeah.
One other quick question, and I don't know if this is politically correct or not, but where's God's hand in this?
Well, because, this is a losing elections. Right now I'm 6-6 in my adult life if Trump doesn't win. I've won 6 times, and I've lost 6 times. I lost 76, I won 80 and 84 and 92. I won 80, 84, and 88. I lost 92 and 96. I won 2000 and 2004. I lost 2008 and 2012. I won 2016, and I lost 2020. In this United States, there is a left and a right. And in this United States, we go back and forth. And I love divided government because that's what the framers had in mind. And the Supreme Court is 6-3. We are so much better off. If you take the long view, would you have taken this result? Ask yourself this. In November of 2016, would you have taken this result? The great The great wrecking ball that was Donald Trump came in. He restocked the courts with a lot of great judges. The Supreme Court is a 6-3 center-right majority, conservative majority, actually. John Roberts is a conservative. He's an originalist. And the Senate is it's a divided. There are 3 branches of government. One is Republican, the Supreme Court. One will be Democratic, the executive branch. And one will be split. So, I mean, game on. Let's win the argument, then win the vote. And we didn't do a lot of good job winning the argument this time. We got to win the argument, and I think socialism will help us in California where it's broken. Thank you, sir. Jeff in Texas. Well done, Texas. Well done.
Oh, thank you, Hugh. I can't take all the credit for it. I just wanted to ask about the Durham investigation. Where does it go from here?
Well, I believe if Joe Biden is the president-elect, Attorney General Barr has to appoint a special counsel, because it is clear to me that we need a special counsel who will not be muffled or fired by an Eric Holder-like wingman. And I believe that will follow as night follows day if Joe Biden is the president-elect.
Any chance it gets released before January?
Well, Durham might, but I'm thinking about the Hunter Biden-China connection and the variety of allegations against Joe Biden. I believe a special counsel. I wrote it before. I think it needs to be done. So it will be a replay in that respect. New presidents with special counsels are not great for the functioning of the executive branch, but I think that is inevitable.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Dick in Ohio. Well done, Ohio. You came through. I mean, you came through big.
I was telling your screener it was pretty nice yesterday. I went over in the area of Kettering, and the people were really nice there. I waited 35 minutes, but I'm telling you, Hugh, I sort of like Trump, winning these swing states, and I think if he gets Ohio, we got a darn good chance of winning this election, buddy.
Well, he got Ohio, and we're not winning the election. In fact, we went the wrong way since the last vote. Wisconsin is now up to a 26,000 vote margin. That's doubled in the wrong direction since last I told you. Looking increasingly like we got to go to Nevada to win this thing. Nevada and Pennsylvania. Thank you, my friend. John in Dover, Delaware. Good morning, John.
Yeah, good morning, Hugh. I think they really need to do something about shoring these elections up a little bit better, man. There should be no doubt when I cast my ballot that I should have to worry for days after the election that one side or the other is going to cheat, man. It's ridiculous. The whole world's laughing at our election system right now. This is outrageous, and I think something needs to be done. If we do, pull it out and end up winning another 4 years, I think Donald Trump needs to target just that first off, man, because that's the most important thing, Hugh. We got to be able to trust our elections, sir.
I agree with you, but I kind of do. I think I'm going to accept this result if it's what I think it's going to be, which is a narrow Trump loss, and I'm going to accept this result if it turns out to be a narrow Trump win, because the margins I was afraid of in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia aren't coming through. Michigan was always a tough reach. Wisconsin, it maddens me that the pollsters got it this wrong. What we have to do more than our voting is really exile the pollsters. Really. Thank you, John. Let's go to Ty in San Antonio, Texas. Hello, Ty.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I kind of suspected that was going to happen. By them taking the Oval Office and keeping the House and not taking the Senate, we're right back in the position that we have been. There's not going to be any kind of stimulus that gets done. They're going to be arguing, bickering back and forth over things. And, if the country wasn't going to make a stand right now and declare who we are as the nation, and they're going to give it to Joe Biden, let's give it all to Joe Biden.
No.
No, you worked for this. You worked for this result. You had Chuck Todd on your show.
Okay, goodbye. I did not work for this result. I'm rooting for the president. I did not work for this result. David in Alabama. Go ahead, David.
Hey, Hugh. Huge fan. I've listened to you at least over a year. First-time caller. I stream your program on the laptop all day, and I get to hear it from time to time. The fraud, 4 years, for 4 years I've been telling people the Dems were going to do anything that they could do to change the election. They're nasty and this kind of thing. We need to look at the fraud that's already happened before the election, Antifa, Acorn-type people voting in multiple states, voting with her college, voting back home, all this kind of stuff. There's no telling what's going on. Then, well, of course, we have to look at what fraud's going to happen with the Democrat officials in these states. But, everybody gets, you did such an awesome job with interviewing the senators with Amy Barrett. I believe you did more than almost anybody in this nation to change the effect of this election for the good. It was other things, the arrogancy of a lot of people that, were drinking their own Kool-Aid about how easy it was going to be just because we know Trump is right on the issues and everything. You got to look at the electorate, and we tried to do that, and you tried to do that, and you try to get people to give to the right organizations, give to the candidates. You had the candidates on the air. So you did an awesome job, sir. I salute you. And,
well, thank you, David. You've got a great new senator in Alabama, and he is going to keep the majority at 52-48. And I cannot tell people who are disheartened this morning by not having a Trump victory secure. Not out of it. I would guess the odds are 30-70 against the president. I think he's got a 30% chance of pulling this out. Maybe it's 25%. I just don't know Nevada well enough. I, honest to God, do not know Nevada. I can talk to you about Wisconsin. Scott Walker's on the ground there. He will tell us what we need to know in Wisconsin. Pennsylvania, I feel pretty good about. Georgia and North Carolina, I feel pretty good about. But right now, he's down. He got to turn one around. But the Senate is in Republican hands, and the Senate is the cooling saucer. And so we start to win back the country tomorrow, once we get a result today, if in fact we've lost it. Ken in Phoenix, Arizona. Ken, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. And yourself, sir?
Good.
Good. Hey, I just called in. I've been a long-time listener. I own a small construction company here in the Phoenix area. First thing is, when I went to early voting, and I pull up. There's no one there. I walk in. There's I'm 55. There's people like my age and older all there that are the people running taking care of the situation there. And this lady walks me up to the screen. She helps me with my driver's license and everything. And she's standing here watching with me, and there's a big screen, and it pops up my name and that I'm a Republican and all this stuff. She's watching with me. And then another lady over here prints out my ballot. I print my ballot, and then all of them point to this guy. Go to him. He's going to help you put it. And then there's this row of boxes, and he points at this box, and he says, yeah, yours goes right in here. I just didn't feel good about this.
No, I don't feel good about that either, Ken. But Phoenix, you got a Republican state set of officials there. So I have trust in the result. It's just they're 93,000 votes down right now. We got to turn it around. Thank you, Ken. ReliefFactor.com. Those of you who are going to go work out extra hard today because you got frustration, remember ReliefFactor.com. $19.95 get you started on the next 4 years. Because if it is a Biden presidency, we're going to have to work out, stay in shape, and be ready for 4 years from now. It's going to be quite the scramble. But it ain't over yet, and so we might need you all on your feet in Wisconsin for days, and Nevada for days, and Arizona for days, and Pennsylvania for days. So go and get some Relief Factor to make sure the minor aches and pains that a company standing around watching votes be counted don't take you down. Doesn't look good, but it's not over. I'll tell you more when we come back, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once has an old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used a similar example. I like rock and roll. And the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, a guy by the name of Jimmy Page, He was a studio musician for years, and he just played one exact note for note what he was told to play, and he played all the time in that mode. And by the time he got into the rock and roll band Led Zeppelin, he had complete freedom to make that guitar sound how he wanted it to sound because he had the discipline.
Exactly. It's exactly the same as mine, just different form of music. That's exactly right. All right, my friend, we're going to do an hour together. I'm so crazy about the book. I just wanted to, in this very urgent time, take time out to tell people about it. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it.
You, my friend, to say the least, have earned it. Thank you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now.
Kind of turned into a national referendum in a way of Democrat dirty tricks versus the Republican Party. It's a little bit like the Ted Cruz Beto O'Rourke battle was in 2018. Over at Red State, they write, not a day goes by where there isn't a fawning puff piece on how Harrison has managed to make a race competitive. You want to know how they're trying to win in South Carolina and beat Lindsey Graham? They're not trying to advance the message of this liberal Democrat, Jamie Harrison. They're pretending that a guy named Bill Bledsoe, who dropped out a month ago, he was earlier in the year challenging Lindsey. He dropped out and voted for Lindsey Graham. He's a complete Lindsey Graham supporters. But get this, because Bledsoe missed the deadline to be removed from the ballot prior to withdrawing, his name is still on the ballot. And so the pro-Jamie Harrison side, including the Never Trumpers and all those scoundrels who hate Trump and are trying every way they can to lift up Democrats, they're lying to the voters of South Carolina by saturating the airwaves with ads that suggest that Bill Bledsoe is a violent.
Welcome back, America. Byron York will be along. We'll take a look at where Donald Trump has got to pull off a minor miracle. I will bring up to speed at the top of the hour. Right now, he is down to a very narrow margin in Michigan that will not hold. He is down. He's only behind by 7,200 votes in Nevada. And it seems to me that that's where the prospecting for gold is going to happen in the Silver State. I think he's going to hold in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. So Nevada. What do you folks think? Let's talk to Dave in Columbus, Ohio, listening on 98.9. Hi, Dave. Go to the Pint House tonight, toast the Buckeyes, and be happy.
Yes. There are many things to be happy about today, but I'm especially happy and proud of the Buckeye State for getting our voting system correct. And I think it's the United States Supreme Court needs to dictate that all states adopt what Ohio has done with voting. And here's what we do. We purge the voter rolls of dead people who haven't voted in the past two presidential cycles. So there's a huge, massive purging of voter rolls of dead people. There's no unsolicited mail-in ballots. All mail-in votes are solicited absentee ballots, and all these absentee ballots have registration numbers so they can be tracked. There's no same-day voter registration. You have to do it 30 days in advance. Absentee ballots can be mailed the day before the election or turned in person the day of. Voter ID is required for in-person voting. There is early voting. The result of all this is that the Quinnipiac showed Biden +5. That was the poll the day before the election. Trump wins by +8. So I think that if you have a voting system that is fair, this is how this is the only way the Republicans will win going forward. And the most important aspect of all.
I do believe that we have to absolutely exile pollsters like the Israelis have. There's a First Amendment problem in that, but news organizations that use Quinnipiac should never be called a news organization again. And there are a few others that are that bad. Dave, thank you. Let me go to Diane in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Diane.
Yes. One thing, Maricopa County, that the person ahead of the elections is definitely a Democrat. And I don't know what that may or may not have to do with counting the votes here. But my biggest concern is the people that I know on the left, you can't even talk to them. They're vicious. They have been vicious against this president since when he was elected before. How do we relate to people or get our point across when you're dealing with people that aren't even rational?
Well, there are a lot of people who aren't rational on both sides. You emphasize the rational. One of the things I think Republicans, people have got to approach this period of time with the idea that a lot of independents have their eyes on how the Republicans conduct themselves, and they've got to conduct themselves according to the rule of law, because we preach the rule of law. And we got to hang on to the Senate in 2 years. We got to fight the long fight here. I've lost 6 times. I've won 6 times. You never give up. But you've got to fight it within the rules, and I believe we will do that. And that's how you persuade people. As Maggie Thatcher said, win the argument, then win the vote. If Donald Trump does not come back, we got to win the argument, then win the vote. Thank you, Diane. There will be no Green New Deal. There will be no Medicare for all. The enormous sigh of relief in the land is that the Senate remains Mitch McConnell's to lead. James in Louisville, Kentucky. Hello, James.
Morning glory, Hugh.
Well, morning glory. Thank God for Mitch McConnell.
Oh, yes. I am so happy and so relieved I was able to actually sleep last night. My point is with Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan, that Joe Jorgensen and the Libertarian Party had peeled up enough votes of 5,000, 10,000, and 40,000, respectively, in those three that would have put Trump, if he doesn't get it, at this point, with the numbers I'm looking at, over the top. And we would have all three of those locked down right now.
Well, that's if wishes were, dollars, we'd all be billionaires. I'm looking at just the facts. I'm doing what I always do, which is report the news. The news is, at this hour, Donald Trump is not favored to win the presidency. Joe Biden is. And the only way to win it is to send in, paratroop in lawyers to Nevada. And hold on to Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, and turn Nevada. And turn Nevada by counting every vote. There's some still rural votes out, aren't there, Dwayne, in Nevada? Don't we still have some stuff to count in Nevada?
Yes, there are tens of thousands of votes, both in rural, and there are probably similar amounts in Clark County. We don't know a quantity of how many and how many of them are absentee.
Does he win if he gets North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada?
Yes, if he loses Michigan and picks up Nevada, retains North Carolina and Georgia and Pennsylvania, Donald Trump would have 274.
You got to go to Nevada. That is where it's going to be. I'm on in Las Vegas right now, so you Nevadans, go make sure that your votes got counted. 1-800-520-1234. When we come back, let me summarize for you. The Republicans are going to have 52 seats in the Senate, maybe 53 if John James comes through, but I think it's going to be 52, and that's counting the Kelly Loeffler win and David Perdue not having to go to a runoff. I think that's where we are right now. So 52 in the Senate. Mitch McConnell remains leader. Nancy Pelosi has lost 4 seats. Her speakership may be in doubt because Democrats aren't crazy. She's a terrible face for the party. And the presidency right now seems to be leaning towards Joe Biden, but there's a lot to be counted. Just the rule of law will obtain. Everyone will play by the rules because we're Americans, and we'll accept the result, pick ourselves up, and go on to fight. Stay tuned. One more hour ahead. 1-800-520-1234. Connection to the Hugh Hewitt Show. This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I live with a bunch of liberal Democrats, and they were complaining about President Trump was dismantling President Obama's legacy.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like the fact that he had got rid of all of his regulations, his policies.
Right.
So if President Obama handed out all this to President Trump, how could he claim that President Trump inherited something that he really didn't have anything to do with?
Well, of course, Randy. Plus, how can he claim that that takes the credit for the economy when everything Donald Trump has done to improve the economy is criticized? Donald Trump lowered taxes. He lowered them too much. Rich people got too much of a break. Donald Trump lowered regulations. We need those regulations for Wall Street. So here you are taking credit for Donald Trump's economy while criticizing the policies that produce the economy. And Randy, the reason I said you were well named is because that's my dad's name, Randy. His name is Randolph. They called him Randy. Now, one more thing, Randy. You listen to the Larry Elder Show. You know I always try to use liberal sources to advance my own agenda because you can't attack your own liberal sources. Here is Tavis Smiley, anti-Trump Tavis Smiley, who criticized President Trump, admitting that under Obama, by virtually every major metric, blacks lost ground.
Over these last 10 years, most of that on his watch, black America has lost ground in the major economic indicator categories.
The so-called wealth gap between the average black household and white household widened. Poverty went up. And from a period of 2010 to 2013, believe it or not, black net worth fell almost 30%. Some legacy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mayor Giuliani, when they say they are investigating one man and his business associates, what does that mean? Who is in the net? And could it be the Democrat candidate for the highest office in the land, Joe Biden?
It has to be, because the money laundering was being done for his benefit. And if you listen to his son's description of it on the hard drive, which no one has disputed, he makes it clear that Pop gets half of that. Pop, according to a text message of January 3rd, 2019, for 30 years, he's been taking care of all the expenses of the family. That's Hunter. And Pop requires him to kick half of the money to him. So every one of these deals is for the benefit of Joe Biden. And best evidence of that is, how did Joe, on the salary of a senator, acquire 5 houses and live like a multimillionaire while he was in the Senate? He didn't become rich after. He became rich while he was in the Senate. Well, he became rich because he was using his son, his brother, his sister-in-law, and his other brother as bagmen.
In that case, the question is very easy. You have dealt with organized crime. You have dealt with terrorism. You have put people behind bars because they are a threat to the national security and safety of all Americans.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I do believe, though, that President Donald Trump will comfortably win Florida. Every single Republican precinct and district that we are looking at in Florida and analyzing the data, it is looking increasingly good for the president. And so we are now not looking at a presidential race. We are not looking at a national race. We are looking at a small set of gubernatorial races to win the White House. That's what we are. President Donald Trump basically has to win state races in 2 or 3 states to become president of the United States for 4 more years. He has to win a governor's race, metaphorically in Arizona, in Pennsylvania, hold Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, and he wins. It's that simple. And one of the amazing things is, now that as I'm wearing my Justice League shirt with Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, is how the left refused to attack Amy Coney Barrett at all whatsoever. And so just a piece of advice for the president, mention Amy Coney Barrett in every one of your rallies that you're doing on television. Say, isn't she great? Look at Amy Coney Barrett. She's on the Supreme Court. We got it done. In fact, you can start to see how the Democrats were attacking the process. I don't want to attack the nominee. And Amy Coney Barrett said it the best in Cut 10, where she discussed the difference of a senator and a justice. Play Cut 10.
It is the job of a senator to pursue her policy preferences. In fact, it would be a dereliction of duty for her to put policy goals aside. By contrast, it is the job of a judge to resist her policy preferences.
That's the difference between a constitutional judge and an activist judge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet, that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Philadelphia, the fatal police shooting of 27-year-old Walter Wallace from City Journal in West Philadelphia has set off another round of mass looting, arson, and violence. Wallace, who had a long criminal history and evident mental problems, was confronted by two police officers who ordered him repeatedly to put down the knife that he was wielding. Wallace refused to drop the knife, charged the officers, and was shot multiple times. The shooting sparked looting and vandalism in and around West Philadelphia's 52nd Street corridor, where the 18th District Police District is located. Incidentally, I have very vivid memories of arriving
Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway, and I got a whole 90 minutes of sleep last night, and a shower and a shave, so I am here, ready, rested to go. Joined by Byron York, of course, of the Washington Examiner of Fox News. Byron, people are mad at Fox News over that Arizona call. I think they might want to, they might want to look at that decision, Des, but let's put that aside. Looks to me like Joe Biden is a prohibitive favorite to win, but not impossible for Donald Trump to come back, that Mitch McConnell is a prohibitive favorite to remain the majority leader, though, yeah, actually, it's impossible for the Democrats to get that back. Do you agree with me?
Well, remember, all of the Democratic dreams of remaking the nation, of packing the Supreme Court, of adding Washington, D.C. as a state, of adding Puerto Rico as a state, of enacting the Green New Deal, of raising taxes through the roof, of ending the filibuster in the Senate, all of that depended on Democratic control of the House and the Senate, plus Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the White House. And that whole package is not going to happen. The whole Senate thing didn't work out. It appears that Democrats are not going to take control of the Senate. In spite of spending unbelievable amounts of money, they spent $109 million in South Carolina. I mean, they could have bought all the TV stations and more in South Carolina. Just use those as Democratic outlets. But they spent all this money, and it didn't work. So that is huge. Now, on the presidency,
what can you say? I've been listening to your analysis, doing my own, listening to other things. Trump obviously has to keep Georgia and North Carolina.
And Pennsylvania.
Right? He looks like he's going to win Pennsylvania. So then, what he needs to do is win either Michigan or Wisconsin, both of which might be just beyond reach, or Nevada, which I didn't expect that we'd be talking about Nevada as a possible route to victory for Trump. But there it is. And the weird thing is I'm sure you've been reporting, officials in Nevada said they're going to release any more results until tomorrow. So Nevada is just the whole story is just going to kind of sit there for 24 more hours. But it is a fact, if you look in these rural areas of Nevada, they're not large amounts of votes, but they're hugely pro-Trump.
And that means when you're down really 7,600 votes, there is an opportunity for one error anywhere. They've got to flood the state with lawyers, Byron. That's where Donald Trump's path is, Pennsylvania and Nevada. Scott Walker just tweeted out, the former governor of Wisconsin, election recount procedures in Wisconsin. And so he knows there's going to be a recount there.
Exactly. I mean, these states are incredibly close. And first of all, that's a huge disappointment for all the Democrats, and they were out there who thought there would be a landslide. There were Democrats who were perhaps too credulous who believed in that. There were resistance types who believed in that. There were never Trump types who believed in that because they thought a Biden landslide would destroy the Republican Party, and then they, the never Trump remnant, could come back and rebuild the Republican Party the way it used to be when they had more influence in it. But none of that happened. I mean, none of that happened. Whatever happens, we know now. If Trump wins, it will be a razor-thin victory, and if Biden wins, it will be a razor-thin victory. So it's possible at this moment to figure out how this is going to shake out. But you're absolutely right. Nevada, look at Nevada, and then look at possible litigation and recounts in some of these really close upper Midwest states.
I don't know that Michigan will be close enough to do that. I don't think Pennsylvania will be close enough for the Democrats to argue about it. I don't think Georgia and North Carolina are going to close. But I do want to look at the Senate with you, Byron, because to me, Mitch McConnell is now the conservative firewall, and his coalition, he's got to hold it together, including Lisa Murkowski. Susan Collins is at 50.55%. I believe she's going to win outright. We don't have to go to that crazy second choice voting system, but she'd win anyway. I believe Purdue is ahead and will stay ahead. And I don't think John James has enough of a kick to close here. I could be wrong. We'll wait and see what Detroit says about John James. But with 52, because we picked up Alabama, lose Martha McSally. If it stays that way, lose Cory Gardner. It's a net -1. Does Mitch McConnell have the steel? Does he have the confidence of the caucus, along with the Supreme Court, to basically divide the government? Now, the executive branch is more numerous. There are 4,300 people, and you control the government. But the House is fractious. Nancy Pelosi's majority is down lower than it ever was, with Democrats worried about if it's Joe Biden in the White House, they got to worry about getting wiped out. We're not going to see Medicare for all. We're not going to see nothing. Nothing's going to happen. We are going to grind along this fault line in American politics. And Josh Hawley tweeted out last night, we are now, the Republicans, a working class party. And I agree with him. We've got to be about wage growth, not regulation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about this. All of these Democratic dreams depended on unified control of Congress. And without it, they can't kill the filibuster in the Senate. They don't control the Senate. And the House can do what it wants. I mean, the House can, look, we saw the House impeach the president on a party line vote because they wanted to. So they do whatever they want, but it's just not going to become law. And you have to remember, a lot of Democrats thought they could use this moment. They thought that there was an unprecedented weakness in President Trump, and then America would repudiate him in a landslide, and then the Democrats would benefit with unparalleled control of the House and the Senate They would then get rid of that pesky filibuster, and then you can do a lot of stuff if you.
They were going to attack the court, Byron.
Union.
They were going to attack the Supreme Court and thus the rule of law. And so what I want to ask you now, I'm already thinking about this. Assume for a moment that it's a Biden presidency, that he's president-elect, and Donald Trump will not do anything crazy. I know he gave a speech last night that upset some of the talking heads, but my God, what I would have done is gone out and say the polling in the United States is so broken that people stayed home in Wisconsin who would have voted. It's not, if you were going to play Democratic hardball, you'd call the Biden, quote, win illegitimate because the polling suppressed the vote, right? That's the line you would take if you wanted to ape Democrats. But let's not ape Democrats. Let's say it is a divided government with the Supreme Court, 6 conservatives, with the Senate and Mitch McConnell. There's a deal to be done. He doesn't have to confirm one Biden judge, not one, because they did so much to obstruct district court judges. They did so much to obstruct the 3 Supreme Court nominees. And Mitch has got the spine for it, I think. I think they're going to have to make an agreement to get anything done with Mitch McConnell if Joe Biden wins. And I'm not uncomfortable. That's not the disaster that I was looking at 3 days ago.
No. And you're absolutely right. Mitch McConnell could stop anything. I mean, they remember the first thing that the Democrats nuked the filibuster for was for executive branch appointments. But still, the Senate will be in Republican hands. So, I mean, staffing the executive branch will undergo a lot of scrutiny under a President Joe Biden. But look, also the biggest concern is, and I've been saying this since 2015, Joe Biden is going to turn 78 years old. Today's the 4th, and 16 days from now. So he'll be 78 when he's sworn in. Will turn 80 before his term is half over. Has clearly slowed down. A lot of people were worried. They know that Kamala Harris was the most leftist senator in the Senate, and as Trump has shown, a willful executive has a lot of power. They can do a lot of things through executive orders. They can do it and challenge Congress to stop them, and maybe Congress will, and maybe Congress won't. So this is I understand you're saying that Republicans dodged a bullet in the sense of losing the Senate, but still, a willful executive, especially a Kamala Harris and almost a co-presidential role, could do a lot of damage from a Republican point of view.
They could. I'm a half glass full. Worst case scenario, we are not losing the rule of law by expanding the Supreme Court. We are not losing the Senate by adding states willy-nilly, and the Democrats will have to come into 2022 with a Biden-Harris White House that is going to be feckless in its recklessness. And polling is completely discredited, Byron. I mean, do you agree with me on that? Polling is completely discredited?
Yeah, absolutely. I all of us were more cautious after 2016, and yet they did it again. So it's really bad.
They did it again. They affected the outcome of the election, but we will play by the rules. Republicans always do. We're rule of law people. Byron York, good to talk to you. Coming right back with some of your phone calls, America, at 1-800-520-1234. Don't give up hope. All is not lost. There's lots going on in the Republic of the United States, and a lot of it is good. Stay tuned.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mayor Giuliani, when they say they are investigating one man and his business associates, what does that mean? Who is in the net? And could it be the Democrat candidate for the highest office in the land, Joe Biden?
It has to be. because the money laundering was being done for his benefit. And if you listen to his son's description of it on the hard drive, which no one has disputed, he makes it clear that Pop gets half of that. Pop, according to a text message of January 3rd, 2019, for 30 years, he's been taking care of all the expenses of the family. That's Hunter. And Pop requires him to kick half of the money to him. So every one of these deals is for the benefit of Joe Biden. And best evidence of that is, how did Joe, on the salary of a senator, acquire 5 houses and live like a multimillionaire while he was in the Senate? He didn't become rich after. He became rich while he was in the Senate. Well, he became rich because he was using his son, his brother, his sister-in-law, and his other brother as bagmen.
In that case, the question is very easy. You have dealt with organized crime. You have dealt with terrorism. You have put people behind bars because they are a threat to the national security and safety of all Americans.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I do believe, though, that President Donald Trump will comfortably win Florida. Every single Republican precinct and district that we are looking at in Florida and analyzing the data, it is looking increasingly good for the president. And so we are now not looking at a presidential race. We are not looking at a national race. We are looking at a small set of gubernatorial races to win the White House. That's what we are. President Donald Trump basically has to win state races in 2 or 3 states to become president of the United States for 4 more years. He has to win a governor's race, metaphorically in Arizona, Pennsylvania, hold Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, and he wins. It's that simple. And one of the amazing things is, now that as I'm wearing my Justice League shirt with Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, is how the left refused to attack Amy Coney Barrett at all whatsoever. And so just a piece of advice for the president, mention Amy Coney Barrett in every one of your rallies that you're doing on television. Say, isn't she great? Look at Amy Coney Barrett. She's on the Supreme Court. We got it done. In fact, you can start to see how the Democrats were attacking the process. I don't want to attack the nominee. And Amy Coney Barrett said it the best in Cut 10, where she discussed the difference of a senator and a justice. Play Cut 10.
It is the job of a senator to pursue her policy preferences. In fact, it would be a dereliction of duty for her to put policy goals aside. By contrast, it is the job of a judge to resist her policy preferences.
That's the difference between a constitutional judge and an activist judge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet, that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump is taking Welcome back, America. Let me give you a little bit of good news. If you're a Donald Trump supporter, Ron Fournier, who used to be with the National Journal, is in private PR practice now and does not like the president. Does not like the president. Just said that the president has hope in Michigan. Just said. Based on an update from Macomb County. Clerk Fred Miller tells me they're waiting for about 56,000 absentee ballots from Macomb and Shelby Town, but all absentee ballots from Warren and Sterling Heights are accounted for. That just means he's still in the game in Michigan. And the other thing that it's been tweeted out, Ron believes that Gary Peters is in dire shape. John James's Michigan is up by 60,000 votes per AP tally, with much to be counted. We'll see. So that's some good news for you
and
folks out there.
that would make it a wash.
It would absolutely make it a wash. So we're looking forward to Michigan. I haven't given up. I still think we ought to flood Nevada with lawyers because that's an all Democratic state like Michigan. I mean, Gretchen Whitmer will do everything to deliver this. I am not worried about PA. I just am not. I'm not worried about Georgia and North Carolina. We got to flood them with lawyers. They're going to go lawyers everywhere. So this presidential race is not over, and boy, it could get really good on the Senate side. Let me check what the markets are thinking about all this. Even as the probability market begins to rate Joe Biden as a likely president-elect, Europe is up 1%. Germany is up 1%. I expect that Wall Street will be happy with the results today. They will expect a stimulus package. The 10-year Treasury is up to 0.88%. So if you haven't yet bought a house, andrewandtodd.com, andrewandtodd.com, you want to go over there right now because we got a few more months or years before the hyperinflation comes, but we can't spend this kind of money that COVID requires without eventually interest rates catching up. Get the 30-year loan that you want right now. Go, go, go. Don't give up on Donald Trump and don't give up on getting a great deal for a house, but you got to do it at andrewandtodd.com. There was Sierra Pacific Mortgage. You can call them at 888-888-1172. They are the best in the business. andrewandtodd.com. Let me talk with Keith in Pennsylvania. Hello, Keith.
Hi, Hugh. Hey, great show. In my precinct last night, at the end of the voting day, it was 320 Trump, 40 for Biden. And our county ended up going 6 times the amount of votes for Trump as Biden compared to 3 times as much Trump against Clinton. It was overwhelming. And
see, I'm not worried about PA. I am not worried. Western Pennsylvania is just like Eastern Ohio. It's solid Trump. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about Michigan and Nevada. I don't think we can get back in the game.
Legal votes. Count the legal votes. That's the key word for the day. Legal votes.
Good point. Thank you, sir. Hank in Las Vegas. All eyes are on the Silver State, Hank.
Well, if the Californians have come here and to Arizona for the last 40 years for lower taxes and lower housing prices, and they brought their politics, Texas is next, and they've never mailed out ballots to everyone in the state, so it's uncharted territory. I don't think they have the votes in the rural areas to give Trump a victory. But as people have said, the libertarians and the American independents, across the Republicans in the state, and the Greens don't make it to the ballot. Plus, we have none of these candidates as an option, too. The only state in the union to have that, and that siphons off votes. So it doesn't look good, but they should get some attorneys out here because this governor out here has been very heavy-handed from the lockdown to the voting, and they should put up or shut up and get some litigation out here in Nevada because there's been some irregularities at the polling. They kept the polls open another hour because there were supposed glitches in the computer system.
President Trump is down 7,600 votes out of more than 1,170,000.
Almost 1.2 casts.
Yeah, almost 1.2 casts. He's down 7,000 votes. Is there an error? Are there votes to be counted? Did someone forget to drop off a bag of votes somewhere? Flood the state with lawyers. Absolutely flood the state with lawyers. Hank, stay true. If the president wins, it'd be very funny if a gambler like Donald Trump won because Nevada flipped. Possible. And John James in Michigan, please God, John James in Michigan. And Michigan is not gone. I believe Ron Fournier. I really do. Stay tuned, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
This portion of the Hugh Hewitt Show has been brought to you by MyPillow. Call 800-951-5493 or go to MyPillow.com and be sure to use a promo code HUGH.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once has an old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used a similar example. I like rock and roll. And the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, a guy by the name of Jimmy Page, he was a studio musician for years, and he just played exact note for note what he was told to play, and he played all the time in that mode. And by the time he got into the rock and roll band Led Zeppelin, he had complete freedom to make that guitar sound how he wanted it to sound because he had the discipline.
Exactly. It's exactly the same as mine, just different form of music. That's exactly right. All right, my friend, we're going to do an hour together. I'm so crazy about the book. I just wanted to, in this very urgent time, take time out to tell people about it. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it.
You, my friend, to say the least, have earned it. Thank you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
The dirty tricks they're using in South Carolina and what this has to say about Jamie Harrison, the Democrat candidate for Senate who's challenging Lindsey Graham. This race has kind of turned into a national referendum in a way of Democrat dirty tricks versus the Republican Party. It's a little bit like the Ted Cruz Beto O'Rourke battle was in 2018. Over at Red State, they write, not a day goes by where there isn't a fawning puff piece on how Harrison has managed to make a race competitive. You want to know how they're trying to win in South Carolina and beat Lindsey Graham? They're not trying to advance the message of this liberal Democrat, Jamie Harrison. They're pretending that a guy named Bill Bledsoe, who dropped out a month ago, he was earlier in the year challenging Lindsey. He dropped out and voted for Lindsey Graham. He's a complete Lindsey Graham supporters. But get this, because Bledsoe missed the deadline to be removed from the ballot prior to withdrawing, his name is still on the ballot. And so the pro-Jamie Harrison side, including the Never Trumpers and all those scoundrels who hate Trump and are trying every way they can to lift up Democrats, they're lying to the voters of South Carolina by saturating the airwaves with ads that suggest that Bill Bledsoe is a viable alternative to Lindsey Graham.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
But what came out with Joe Biden recently, and it's going to keep coming out, I've never seen anything like it. And the fact that the media is not covering it, it is completely mind-bending to me that I think some people are scared to death of what's going to come out, and they will do anything, including sell their souls practically, to cover up.
This is what's so incredible about our media. I mean, when you look at communist China, for example, and the propaganda that they push, and the fact that, the signal went down during the presidential debate when President Trump was talking about China, right? I mean, you look at how they are on purpose manipulating the media to only allow access from their citizens to whatever they want their citizens to know. I mean, that's indoctrination. It's propaganda, and it's absolutely unacceptable in a society that values truth and fact. And so what our media is telling us, and what the leftists are saying, is that they are more concerned about having a narrative for you to believe than they are about actually telling fact and truth. Because remember, we are in a post-truth society. We are in a society that believes in my truth versus your truth, and that truth is just
Welcome back, America. All eyes on Michigan and Nevada. They're going to decide who's the president of the United States. I'm very confident about North Carolina, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. I just am. Yeah, they got Philly votes coming in, but they haven't got enough to offset what will be good gains for the president in Erie County and western Pennsylvania. Beaver County was still out last night when they went home. Allegheny County, that's Selena Zito land. It's like Ashtabula, Trumbull, and Mahoning County. It's just, I grew up 7 miles from Sharon. I know these people. They love fracking. They love Donald Trump. Pennsylvania is fine. I think Georgia and North Carolina are fine. What's not fine is Michigan, where he only has a few thousand vote lead. And a lot of votes are out in a lot of weird places, but mostly in Democratic places. John James got a better lead than the president does at this hour. Ron Fournier, who really does not like the president at all, tweeted out 11 minutes ago that Peters is in dire shape. So John James might be able to pull the president over, but in the meantime, lawyers and money to Michigan and Nevada. I don't think Arizona's in play. Let me get a few more. JD in Las Vegas. What do you think, JD? Can Nevada be turned around here?
It's going to take a massive amount of Republican people to come out here and challenge every vote, and let me tell you why. Number one, they're reporting anywhere from 64 to 91% of the votes counted. There's 15 counties, they call them the cow counties, up north. They vote about 80 to 85% Republican all the time, so there's votes still up there. Number two, they changed the registrar of voters changed the checking mechanism for signatures, that they use a machine that was set at 50% accuracy. They lowered it to 30%. So they have
Is that true?
Yes. It's the registrar of voters came out on TV and said it last week.
So they're going to have to recount all those? Is there a recount provision for those ballots with a disqualification proviso?
Well, that's where I'm saying the Republican Party has to send not only lawyers, they have to send out a massive amount of people to go in and check every one of these signatures, because they could all possibly be tainted. Plus, another factor, we have 300,000 illegals in our county of Clark, that's Las Vegas, and they have been notoriously flagged in the past couple of elections for staying open till 10 o'clock at night in the Hispanic areas of town, to let them vote till 10 o'clock in the 2018 race, and they won. They won. Republicans lost everything at the state legislature. Now we have made gains in our state legislature in a half a dozen races. I'm looking at the TV. They stopped voting counting last night around, I think, 12 to 1 o'clock in the morning. They said to take a rest, to have the people get some rest from the counting. So we need everybody you got to get out here and to throw a massive amount of people at our voting places.
Well, luckily the hotels are nearly empty and they'll get a good rate. But I mean, Nevada and Michigan.
The hotels are around 60% occupancy.
All right, so we got room, right? You got room for the people to come.
Only if we are aggressive, and only if we do not give an inch.
Do you think Donald Trump is going to give an inch? Do you really think Donald Trump is going to give a centimeter?
No.
But this is going to be a fight. It's going to be a legal fight. It's going to be Florida times 2. It's going to be Florida and Michigan and Florida and Nevada, and we've been there and done that before. The trouble is, we don't have Ben Ginsburg, our best lawyer. He's a never-Trumper. We don't have James Baker, who ran Florida 20 years ago because he's 91 years old. I know who I would send. I'll send my recommendation in later today to my friends on the Trump White House who's got to run this litigation, but it is going to be knockdown, drag out. And I mean, Adam Laxalt is on the ground. He knows this. He was the Attorney General. But did they flip the state legislature? Did they flip the state legislature?
No, we're making gains. We've knocked off a couple of the heads, one of the heads of the state assembly, a real progressive woman. But here's the thing again. We have to, I think the weak point for the Democrats is this voting verification machine of signatures. And like you just said, Adam Laxalt is a bulldog. And he should be probably the lead man, because I get 10 tweets a day from him, and he informs me of everything that's going on, 10 emails a day. And there are weaknesses in their positions, and he will expose them. If he gets enough people from Trump, if he gets enough money to go after these people, I think we can overcome 7,500 votes because of the cow counties. And those are the places right outside of Reno, Elko, Ely.
Haven't they been counted already?
Pardon me?
Haven't they been counted already?
I just told you earlier, 64%, 84%, 90. They're showing on my TV different candidates getting different amounts of votes counted. I've never seen this before. You have one race where they say 84%. That's the presidential race. Then we have assembly races that have 64, and Senate races here, state Senate races that have 75%. It's all over the map. I mean, I have to believe that the registrar of voters is a complete cluster, and that's where they're going to find a lot.
Well,
of
JD, I'm going to be talking to you tomorrow morning. By tomorrow morning, we'll know a lot more. But the red zones for Republicans are Michigan and Nevada, and that's where they got to send lawyers and money. JD, thank you. Let me go to Lynn in California. He's been patient for an hour. Hey, Lynn.
Hey, Hugh. Hi, I just wanted to say I love your show.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you for all your wisdom and knowledge you always share with us. And you're just really great to listen to.
Thank you.
Yeah, we love your show. And so just also, I just wanted to comment because I remember I had heard on there where you had a young man, someone asked about, like, well, where was God's hand in all of this, and this situation with as far as what's going on with us. And, usually you're under talking positive and stuff, and then you sounded a little negative or sad or, like it is a little bit discouraging as far as what's going on right now. And so I was like, wow, that's not good. And so I was like, well, I just was going to be here to just comment very quickly on the little spiritual side of things. And, where we still see that God's hand is in this is where how he used President Trump for these last 4 years and, doing all this great stuff for America, all these great things, like with Israel and, moving the capital over to like Jerusalem area and just all the peace he's used them to keep and all the reforms and everything and what he's done for the military and our vets. And just, making America great again. And so it's like we've seen God doing all these great things. And so what we have to know and believe is that, okay, well, God's not going to just use him for these 4 years and then just let him go, just let things go for America. We have to believe that we know God's not going to do that.
Lynn, you're absolutely right. I think people just need to be encouraged. They live in the United States. We have the rule of law. These races will be decided correctly. They just have to be fought diligently every step of the way. And we have a 6-3 Supreme Court that believes in the rule of law. The court does, and we have a Senate majority led by a resolute leader. All is not lost, but I sure would like to win Michigan or Nevada. That would make it just great. So we will see. We will see. Thank you, Lynn. Kelly in New Mexico. Hi, Kelly. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show. 1-800-520-1234.
Good morning, Hugh.
I think we're going to know more about Nevada than ever, right?
That's right. Hey, I just wanted to say I like your show a lot, but probably not as much as Lynn did. So anyway. Hey, I just want to say that there's an exciting thing going on here, a very exciting thing, and I hope it turns out the way we want it to. But I'm so happy that we're hanging on to the Senate. I think that saves us from perhaps the constitutional challenges we would have had without the Senate. But I am very worried about the changes in foreign policy
Well, you know, that's why the NDA matters, the National Defense Authorization Act, and James Inhofe is the chairman of Armed Services. He's going to still be the chairman of Armed Services, so all is not lost there either.
Hey, can I break in a second?
Yeah, go. We got an update from Dwayne.
From Election Central. Yes, in Michigan. Remember how I said there was this range of what votes have come in?
Yep.
They've now hit the point where it's greater than 99% in. So now it's just absentees. It's whatever dregs are left. But basically everything's in, right? And Trump is still up 10,000 votes in Michigan.
Really?
Yes. So all of the precincts, they've estimated greater than 99% in. Virtually everything that's out there is out there, with maybe the exception of absentees still in certain places.
Well, that's a big
it's saying,
exception.
I take it for whatever it's worth. I'm just saying, remember how we were saying it was low end was 80-something% and high end was whatever? It's up to 99% in, and Donald Trump has a 10,000 vote lead.
Yeah, and John James has a 14,000 vote lead.
And John James, I didn't pull that up. I'm assuming you looked at the number. Yes, yep. He has a 14,000 vote lead.
Well, my friends,
I'm just saying it may not. You actually, it's possible. I'm going
to have to say good things
you
about
might
Michigan.
Actually have to say something nice about Michigan.
You know, I just got to shudder. My alma mater turns out a lot of left-wing lawyers up there. Michigan Law School will probably be. We got to get lawyers to Michigan. I mean, just get them out there. Drive.
There's going to be a recount no matter what.
Don't. That's it. Don't wait. Drive. If you're a lawyer for Trump, drive to Michigan, or from California, drive to Nevada. Take up residence.
All I'm saying is we're 15 minutes away from finishing this show, and you and I both know we were waiting for the inversion point to happen, and it hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened. Let me put it this way. If you add up Michigan and Nevada, it's a dead heat between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It's a 30,000 vote election at this point.
Even if you throw in Wisconsin, it's that.
Well, they got a lot of AVs up there. I'm not very optimistic about Wisconsin.
I understand, but that spread still is only what, 20,000.
Be not afraid, America. Just be brave of heart and be prepared to go volunteer. I mean, lawyers. You need lawyers, election law lawyers who know this stuff. They got to get there. Thank you. Let me go to Alex in Columbus, Ohio. Alex, can you believe we have to root for the state up north?
Hey, Hugh Hewitt. I'm a huge Buckeye fan, but I will take that any day.
You know, I'll wear some blue and gold. I won't root for them during the game, but I'll wear some blue and gold if we can get them to stick with a Trump win.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No false hope, but there is hope. No false hope, but real hope. All right? That's what we've got.
Right. They might not be able to beat Ohio State, but they can take their gun rights back.
They are going to be. It's going to be a precinct by precinct by precinct count in Michigan. Wow, what a couple of weeks ahead. Let me remind everyone. Thank you, my friend. ReliefFactor.com got me through my 10-mile walk yesterday. That's what I did right after the show. I went 10 miles. Took 3 hours. Why did I do that? Because you got to work out. Then I slept for 3 hours, and I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning. I got back on an hour and a half sleep back here, almost done, going to bed, and then I'll be back on the air tomorrow, and we'll know a lot more. But all is not lost. All is in the balance. Prayer is a good thing. ReliefFactor.com is a good thing, too. If you're going to be on your feet, if you're going to be sitting like I have I've been on the air for 12 of the last 14 hours. If you're going to do that, make sure you've got ReliefFactor.com, or if you're just going to lead a regular life with exercise, ReliefFactor.com. Don't go anywhere, America. I'm coming right back. We'll give you the roundup. Dwayne's going to find out what the margin is in Michigan, what the margin is in Nevada. We'll leave you with that. And maybe John James puts the Senate way in our control. We'll find out. Stay tuned.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Since the presidency of Richard Nixon, Joe Biden has been a senator in the United States Senate. Since the presidency of Nixon, that is how long he has had power. We now can see clearly, we might have suspected it, that he has used that power, he's peddled influence, he's traded it for money. We now have evidence. It is so stunning that it's hard to take in, but even more stunning is that the media, and this grieves me deeply as an American, refuses to report on this. Jenna Ellis, what in the world are we to make of this?
This is so important because this presents a national security risk that Joe Biden has compromised his fidelity to an office of public trust, because that's what it is. When we elect people to participate in government, to have the powers of their office, that is a public trust. And the impeachment clause is designed to ensure that your fiduciary responsibility, your integrity, your allegiance is to your office, to your country, to have America first, as President Trump says, and to make sure that your allegiance is not compromised to a foreign government. And that is exactly what the evidence is showing that Joe Biden has done throughout his time as the Vice President of the United States.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
For all intents and purposes, this is no longer John Roberts' court. John Roberts is a metropolitan liberal. He is at best, Rockefeller Republican who goes the way the ruling class tells him to go, appointed by George W. Bush. He believes that church is not essential. He believes that deadlines for ballots in Pennsylvania
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt. I want to give you the update before I go away and get some sleep. I'm going to actually be on the Washington Post podcast here shortly. Mike Gallagher will be in. Let's run down where we are. The president's going to hold North Carolina, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. I firmly believe that. It will come down to Michigan, Arizona, and Nevada. I bring up Arizona because one of my sources in Arizona, very wired in, says our war room says that there are 700,000 votes still to be counted, and they are day of voters, which broke heavily. Now he's down, what is it, 93,000 in Arizona, but with 700,000, if that breaks 60-40, you could see it actually flipping. That's why it hadn't been called. Nevada is 7,200. That hadn't been called.
And there are a lot of counties outside of Clark where they still have 15-20% of the vote still to come in counties that Trump carried handily.
And so all you Democrats who are popping champagne, don't. All you Republicans who have given up and are walking out the door, don't. Yes, we have held the Senate, Republicans. Yes, the Democrats have held the House. There isn't going to be any major constitutional crisis. We're just going to work our way through this day by day, but send lawyers, guns, and money.
There's still some twists and turns left in this coaster, I think.
Yeah, well, by this time tomorrow,
we should know something tomorrow.
We'll be into recount land. And give me the exact numbers on Michigan, but we don't know how many AVs there are, absentee ballots in Michigan.
We do not know that. Again, what we know is that Decision Desk HQ is now saying that greater than 99% of precincts have reported. Donald Trump has retained a 9,500 vote, almost a 10,000 vote lead. And John James has a 14,000 vote lead, roughly, with roughly the same precincts in. But as you and I were talking during the break, we were all the way up. We were both fretting that we were going to see that inversion point where the numbers would come in and Michigan would flip from red to blue on the decision map.
I do want to caution people, because I do report all the news. Nate Cohn is saying the Pennsylvania result is not done because there are 1.4 million ballots left to count, and they're breaking 78 to 21 for Biden. That would mean he would net 800,000 votes, which would be more than enough to overtake the president. However, I don't think he's counting the outstanding ballots in Beaver County and Allegheny County.
I don't think all of Western Pennsylvania's in either.
Yeah, they all went home last night. So I'm still that's a lot of votes to make up by absentees.
It's still a 600,000 vote spread with 20-something% of the vote left.
Yep. So at this hour, uphill battle for Donald Trump, but it's less of a climb than it was when I began the show. But it's still an uphill climb. And there's lots of hope, and there's lots of reason to go to Senate Majority Fund and send Mitch McConnell some money to fight for John James and to defend David Perdue and to win Kelly Loeffler and to make sure Susan Collins is back. All told, 27 hours after we started our Election Day watch yesterday.
By the way, just quick note, since we're talking about Pennsylvania, Sean Parnell, with about 80-some% of the vote in, he's up 57-42. He's going to win that seat.
That's going to be good for the country, and maybe
that'll be another net gain.
And then he's going to have to turn around and run for Pat Toomey's seat. I'm just saying, he's going to pull a Tom Cotton. 2 years in the House, learn where the subways are.
He will live on this show.
Yes, it's going to be the Hugh Hewitt and Sean Parnell show.
The Hugh Parnell show.
The Hugh Parnell show. I want to thank everyone for listening. I really do believe you folks have been great for me, and I appreciate it very much. The Washington Post Live is calling me on your number, Dwayne, doggone it. They're calling me on your number. Would you answer that and tell them to call me on my number?
What do you mean? I can't answer that.
All right, I'll go talk to them there. Thank you, buddy. Don't go anywhere, America, except here. Mike Gallagher will be bringing you everything you need to know. He's going to bring you everything you need to know in order to be fully read in, fully informed, fully brought up to speed. Mike Gallagher is not going to do well in the next 2 months. He's not built for this. Mike's built for landslides. He's not built for nail biting.
He doesn't have enough houses to be able to.
No, I know. He's walking the beach with his ascot and his dogs. I am here to tell you that every morning I will give you the facts. We will lead you through this, and we will commit to the rule of law. And I have confidence in this Supreme Court. Amy Coney Barrett, I saw so many people misreading what she did last night. She is not out of these cases either. And I don't care how much they say the Senate brought it up, the Senate brought it. She's a justice of the United States. Nancy Pelosi attacked her last night, the most irresponsible thing I've seen online. And it's going to be a grueling, if Joe Biden wins this, it's going to be a grueling 4 years in D.C. And if Donald Trump wins it, it's going to be a sweeping amount of constitutional change. So hard to count on the state up north, but we're going to try and do that. I'll bring you the updates tomorrow. Thank you, Generalissimo. Terrific work. Thank you, Adam. Terrific work. Ben and Harley. Terrific work. And everybody out there, remember, Senate Majority Fund. Senate Majority Fund.
Lawyers,
Go
guns,
Google
and
it.
money.
Well, we don't want guns. We want lawyers and money, though.
Well,
In Nevada
song,
and Michigan. Though. Good song. And we'll leave you with that. God bless. It's America. We love close elections. We did this in 2000. 20 years later, we're doing it again. And we'll do it right here tomorrow on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.